Chapter 2976. With great rewards, there would definitely be brave men. What's more, right now, the city lord clearly had the upper hand. There were hundreds of people around, all of them high gods. They didn't think too much, because no one wanted to die in the refining god tower. The next second, hundreds of people immediately attacked Longao wildly. As they saw it, the man and the beast were just peak high gods. How could they resist the attacks of hundreds of people? They truly attacked. The situation changed. Little Black's body suddenly grew larger and larger. In a few short seconds, he had become a spiritual beast the size of a small mountain. Heaven-devouring divine ability. The heaven-devouring beast began to wildly devour the warriors attacking the two high gods. To Little Black, were a piece of cake. He devoured as many as he could. Longao didn't attack. He just stared at the nearby Zwalan. In just a few minutes, over 100 people had been completely devoured by Little Black. What kind of concept was this? Even Zwalan felt some fear. At this moment, he finally understood why Longao, a mere high god, dared to come and make trouble for him. It was because this spiritual beast was so powerful. I'm going to devour you. Little Black, don't attack yet. Zwalan was very worried, but he said, Longao, don't think that just because you have such a heaven-defying spiritual beast, you are invincible. I can tell you clearly that within the refining god tower, I am the master. Not just you, even if a god king came, he wouldn't be able to leave alive. Zwalan began to activate the refining god tower. Countless energy shadows began to appear within the refining god tower, and they began to wildly attack Longao and Little Black. Zwalan, the refining god tower might be useful to others, but to me, it is completely useless. Just as Zwalan was about to say that he was bullshitting, the situation suddenly changed. The refining god tower that had begun to wildly attack suddenly stopped. What's going on? Before Zwalan could react, Longao and he had been teleported away by the refining god tower. Outside, Zwalan's face completely changed. After all, the refining god tower was his greatest trump card. He had never imagined that his trump card would be in the hands of the opponent. What was going on? What was going on? He could not figure it out. Zwalan, do you not understand why I was able to subdue the refining god tower? Zwalan didn't say anything, but the expression on her face explained everything. You no longer have the chance. Longao immediately began to refine the refining god tower. In just a few seconds, he had completely refined the refining god tower. They were connected by blood. Longao had already guessed that there was definitely a connection between him and the refining god tower, but he didn't dare to be sure. This time, he was here to give it a try. This was also the real reason why Longao didn't immediately attack Zwalan when he entered the main hall. As expected. It seemed that it was just as he had guessed. The god refining tower was indeed his. I'll let you experience the true might of the refining god tower. The refining god tower in Longao's hands directly enveloped Zwalan. From the beginning to the end, Zwalan did not even have time to react before she was already enveloped by the refining god tower. Ever since she had obtained the refining god tower, Zwalan had entered the refining god tower countless times. However, she had always been in charge of the life and death of others. She had never thought that she would be enveloped by someone else first when she entered the refining god tower this time. Two completely different feelings. Within the refining god tower, Longao poured the heart-burning lotus into the refining god tower. He merged with the power of the refining god tower and began to attack Zwalan. There was no way a mid-level lord could withstand such a terrifying attack. Up until the moment of her death, Zwalan had never thought that she would be killed by a mere high god. Big brother, the refining god tower really is yours. You sensed it correctly. Nodding his head, Longao was very clear that he was able to refine the refining god tower in just a few seconds. This in itself already explained the problem. According to his guess, the refining god tower was his own treasure. Naturally, he would refine the refining god tower again in this reincarnation. Next, we have to awaken our primordial spirits as soon as possible. Otherwise, we'll be passive everywhere. This feeling makes me very uncomfortable. Of course, Xiao Hei knew what his big brother meant. Awakening one's primordial spirit was easy to think about, but it was almost impossible to actually do it. It was a completely clueless matter. Big brother, are we going to the Zonglong Heaven region now? Yes. My intuition tells me that if we want to awaken our primordial spirits, we can't just stay in the lower heaven region. I'm going to try the middle heaven region first. If that doesn't work, we'll continue to the upper heaven region. No matter what happens, we have to awaken our primordial spirits. Of course, Xiao Hei did not mind. He would go wherever his big brother went anyway. The incident in Mist Mountain City soon spread throughout the entire abysmal heaven region. The dignified city governor of Mist Mountain City, including the entire city governor's mansion, had been massacred. It was obvious what this meant. This was a complete provocation. However, the domain lord of abysmal heaven did not appear. Others might not know, but as the domain lord of abysmal heaven, how could he not have heard that Longao had killed the city governor of Blackrock City in the heaven region? There was no need to offend a lunatic for a dead person. A lunatic who did not even care about the domain lord of heaven region. After successfully killing Zhualan, Longao did not want to stay in abysmal heaven region any longer. He was ready to go to the Zonglong heaven region immediately. He had almost been killed by the two of them. He would not give up until he settled the score. If he wanted to go to the Zonglong heaven region from abysmal heaven region, he would need to use the teleportation formation 3 times. Each time, he would need a huge amount of crystal stones. Even if Longao was rich, he could not afford such expenses. He had no choice but to use the teleportation formation to go to the Zonglong heaven region first. The teleportation formation in abysmal heaven region was in Abysmal City. Previously, when he went from Blackrock Heaven region to Abysmal Heaven region, he was teleported to Abysmal City. Longao rushed to Juyu City as fast as he could, because he couldn't wait any longer. The reason was simple: as long as his primordial spirit didn't awaken, he would always be in a passive state. It was still the same sentence: he didn't like this kind of passive feeling, he had to change from passive to active. Of course, Xiao Hei would not have any problems. Not only his big brother, but he also had to awaken his primordial spirit as soon as possible. Abysmal City was the city where the Domain Lord's mansion was located. It was also the biggest city in Abysmal Heaven region. There were many experts in Abysmal City. The Domain Lord of Abysmal Heaven region was also a peak Divine King expert. Even if he was not as strong as Nangong Fengyun, he was not much weaker. Chapter 2977. As soon as he stepped into Juyu City, Longao immediately went to the teleportation formation. No matter which heaven it was, the teleportation formation was controlled by the Domain Lord. Large heavens might have several teleportation formations, but Juyu Heaven and Blackstone Heaven only had one teleportation formation. After the Domain Lord's mansion in Blackstone Heaven was destroyed, the teleportation formation was controlled by Dragon City, unless the Sky Alliance could send a new Domain Lord. Longao, you killed Zhualan. Aren't you going to explain it to me? Juyu City, beside the teleportation formation. Just as Longao was about to leave through the teleportation formation, a figure suddenly appeared. Domain Lord. Seeing the man, everyone bowed respectfully. Domain Lord. Looking at the man in front of him, Longao had already guessed that the man in front of him should be the Domain Lord of Juyu Heaven, peak Divine King martial artist. He asked for it, he can't blame anyone else. Peak Divine King, so what? Although he and Blackie were not a match for a peak Divine King, Longao was not afraid at all. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. Longao, I shouldn't interfere in the grudge between you and Zhualan. But you killed a city lord without telling me. Isn't that a bit too much? Of course, Flowing Snake did not want to trouble Longao, but after this incident, the entire Juyu Heaven was talking about it. It was the biggest topic. The mysterious martial artist killed Zhualan and destroyed the city lord's mansion of Lanshan City. From beginning to end, the Domain Lord of Juyu Heaven did not say anything. Was the Domain Lord afraid of this person? If the other party was a divine king, it would be fine. But the other party was just a superior god. The reason why he could kill Zhuolan was because of an external force. If so, why did the domain lord not show up? It could be said that the reason why Flowing Snake showed up was because of external pressure. Even so, Flowing Snake did not want to fall out with Longao. As long as Longao gave him a way out, this matter would be over. It was not worth it to provoke a madman for a dead person. Too much. Zhuolan used the God-refining tower to devour cultivators' primordial spirits. I believe you should know about this. Did you stop her? Hearing this, the crowd was in an uproar. The refining god tower in Mist Mountain City was a good thing that Zhuolan had done for everyone. As long as one had enough crystals, they could enter the refining god tower to cultivate. Flowing Snake's expression suddenly changed. He finally understood why Zhuolan wanted to kill this person. Very few people knew the secret of the refining god tower, but Flowing Snake definitely knew about it. If it wasn't for Flowing Snake's protection, how could the refining god tower have remained undiscovered for so many years? It was complete nonsense. All of a sudden, Flowing Snake's silhouette moved, and with a spatial twist, the hundreds of people around him were all killed. Silencing the witness. Flowing Snake was very clear that this matter could not be leaked. Otherwise, even if he could kill Longao, so what? He would be ruined in the future. If the Sky Region Alliance found out about this, he would lose his position as the leader of the Sky Region. He didn't stop them. Longao just coldly looked at Flowing Snake in front of him, waiting to see what the other party wanted to do. Longao, there is no enmity between us. Zhuolan is already dead. There is no need for us to fight to the death. What do you think? Longao did not speak. Until now, he still did not know what the other party meant. You can go. I just hope that you won't leak the secret of the refining god tower. If it wasn't for the refining god tower, I wouldn't have become a peak divine king. This matter will not be leaked. Longao already understood the meaning of Flowing Snake's words. The Chaos Realm was a man-eat-man world. He did not want to change anything. Anyway, Zhuolan was already dead. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he did not want to fight with Flowing Snake. Turning around, he entered the teleportation array. This time, Longao did not spend any crystals. Looking at the figure that had already disappeared, Flowing Snake wanted to attack several times. However, he resisted the urge. He didn't know why, but he couldn't see through the opponent. Once he attacked, he didn't know if he could kill the opponent. He let out a deep sigh. Flowing Snake had already gone to Mist Mountain City, but found that the refining god tower was no longer there. There were only two possibilities. Either Zhuolan had hidden it, or Longao had taken it away. After 3 teleportations, Longao finally arrived at the Zonglong Heaven Domain. The Zonglong Heaven Domain was a middle heaven domain, far superior to the lower heaven domains. According to the information he had received, Du Lei and He Zhongtian were not from the Domain Lord's Manor or the City Lord's Manor. They were from the Sanskrit Sound Sect. The Sanskrit Sound Sect was the #1 sect in the Zonglong Heaven Domain. Its master was a divine emperor. Longao certainly knew that with his current strength, he could not compete with the Sanskrit Sound Sect. Moreover, this was the Sanskrit Sound Sect's territory. If he went against the Sanskrit Sound Sect, the Domain Lord of the Zonglong Heaven Domain would definitely side with the Sanskrit Sound Sect. There was no doubt about it. Revenge must be taken. Even if Du Lei and He Zhongtian were from the Sanskrit Sound Sect, Longao would not choose to give up. Apart from looking for a way to awaken his primordial spirit, he was prepared to stay in the Zonglong Heaven Domain for a while. His cultivation had successfully broken through to peak Martial Master. If he wanted to advance to Martial Lord, he must first comprehend the power of space. It sounded simple, but it was very difficult to actually do it. Boss, where are we going now? Let's look around first. You and I must advance to Lord as soon as possible. Longao certainly knew that the Middle Heaven Domain and the Lower Heaven Domain were not the same. Divine kings might be rare in the Lower Heaven Domain, but they could be seen everywhere in the Middle Heaven Domain. There were even many divine emperors. Boss, if I want to break through to half-step Lord or Lord, I just need to keep refining the inheritance. It's just that refining the inheritance is too slow. Sigh. Xiao Hei sighed deeply. There were pros and cons to this. The good thing was that there was no bottleneck for him at all. As long as he refined the inheritance, he could reach a higher level. The bad thing was that even Xiao Hei did not know how long it would take to refine the inheritance. Longao smiled and said, "Just tell me what you need. If I can help you, I'll definitely help you. Big brother, from now on, I need to devour a large amount of energy in order to speed up the speed of refining the inheritance. Aren't you afraid of being devoured by the energy? If it were before, I definitely would have. Ever since I obtained the mysterious inheritance and energy in the heavenly road, no matter how much energy I devour, I won't be devoured by the energy. So, boss, you don't have to worry about that." All right. If that were the case, it would be very simple. With Xiao Hei's current abilities and himself, it would be more than enough to deal with high-level lords. Once their cultivation had all broken through to lord level, they would be able to kill even peak lords. Chapter 2978. Zonglong Heavenly Region was one of the stronger regions in the middle 33 heavens. After Longao and Blackie entered Zonglong Heavenly Region, they started to think of ways to improve their strength. They started to refine pills. However, to break through to half-step lord level, consuming pills alone was not enough. The most important thing was to comprehend the power of space. Zonglong City. It was the city where Zonglong Heavenly Region's domain chief's manor was located. It was also where the teleportation formation was located. However, there were 3 teleportation formations in Zonglong Heavenly Region. Longao came from another teleportation formation. According to the information he received, there were many places in Zonglong City for high gods or over gods to comprehend the power of space. That was why Longao immediately went to Zonglong City. Sanskrit sect. Du Lei and He Zhongtian had been struggling with whether they should tell the master about this since they returned to the sect. If they did, they might get into trouble. If they did not, they would not be able to swallow their anger. If it were not for the flying warship, they would have been killed by Nangong Fengyun. They were furious just thinking about it. However, the two of them were also clear that the sect would not go against the Blackstone Heavenly Region for the two of them. "Brother He, I just received news from Blackstone Heavenly Region. Pill Hall destroyed the City Lord's manor and Domain Chief's manor. Nangong Chen was killed by Longao. Nangong Fengyun's whereabouts are still unknown." Ah! He Zhongtian was shocked when he heard Du Lei's words. He knew what it meant. How could Longao kill Nangong Chen with his strength? According to the news, Nangong Chen destroyed Chenkuan City and captured 2 women. It seems to be related to Longao. However, one of them received the power of inheritance and self-destructed her primordial spirit. Think about it, how powerful is that? Nangong Chen was already severely injured. Longao took the opportunity to kill him, but he was already invaded by the Heart Demon. Invasion by the Heart Demon. As for Pill Hall, it was said that Nangong Chen attacked Han Yin in Heaven's Road. He Zhongtian smiled and said, "Serves him right." The two of them had almost died in the Blackstone Heavenly Region, so of course they were gloating. They couldn't wait for Nangong Chen and his son to die. Longao has already turned into a demon. Even if we tell the sect about this, it won't be of much use. We're letting him off easy. Of course, He Zhongtian knew what Du Lei meant. He shrugged his shoulders helplessly. Since things had come to this, there was nothing else he could do. The two of them would never have thought that Longao, whom they thought had turned into a demon, had already entered Zonglong City. Zonglong City. Longao disguised himself a little and prepared to go to the place where he could comprehend space. If he could successfully comprehend spatial strength, even if he could not elevate to Lord level, he would at least break through to half-step Lord level. He couldn't wait. He couldn't wait any longer. There were several places in Zonglong City where martial artists could comprehend the power of space. Longao chose a place called the God Sealing Tower. As the name suggested, the regal tower could be entered by high gods or lords, including half-step lords. Many people had become godly kings in the regal tower and obtained titles. However, the regal tower's requirements were very high. Not everyone could enter as and when they wished. If anyone could enter, the regal tower would be a complete mess. To enter the regal tower, one had to fulfill 3 conditions. The first condition was that martial artists who wanted to enter the regal tower had to have a cultivation level of peak high god and above. After all, only those who were peak high god and above had a higher chance of comprehending spatial strength in the regal tower. The second condition was that martial artists who wanted to enter the regal tower had to pay 100 million crystals each time and could only stay in the regal tower for a month. These 2 conditions alone had already shut out 80% of the people, especially since they could only stay for a month each time and had to pay 100 million crystals each time. What did 100 million crystals mean? An ordinary peak high god or half-step lord, including lords, might not be able to afford such a consumption. Most importantly, the third condition was that martial artists who wanted to enter the regal tower had to be acknowledged by the regal tower. Otherwise, no matter how powerful one would not be able to enter. No one knew when the regal tower would appear, and not everyone could control it. However, according to legend, many territorial lord cities in the chaotic realm had regal towers. There seemed to be another legend as well. Even if a regal tower existed in every heavenly territory, there would at most be one. When the regal tower appeared, some territorial lords began to build towns around it. Zonglong City, for example, seemed to be one of them. The regal tower was a massive object. At a glance, it seemed to pierce through the 9 heavens. The regal tower released an endless, majestic aura. One could comprehend it just by standing outside. When Longao arrived, he already discovered that there were countless people standing outside the titled King Pagoda. These people either did not reach the level of peak superior god or did not have 100 million spar or were not recognized by the titled King Pagoda. Actually, many people were unhappy. The first and third conditions were actually the same. This was because if one's cultivation was not peak high god or above, one would not be able to pass through the regal tower itself, let alone others. However, the second condition was that every time one stepped into the regal tower, they had to pay 100 million crystals. This made many people angry, but they did not dare to say anything. This was because the person who collected the crystals from the regal tower was not the territorial lord of Zonglong Heavenly Territory, but the Territorial Lord Alliance. As one of the most powerful forces in the chaotic realm, no one dared to offend the Territorial Lord Alliance. Paying 100 million crystals was fine. Under normal circumstances, those who were rejected by the regal tower should have their crystals returned. However, the Territorial Lord Alliance had made it clear that as long as one paid the crystals, regardless of whether one successfully entered the regal tower or not, the crystals would not be returned. Even so, many martial artists paid the crystals every day to try their luck. If they were lucky enough, they could be acknowledged by the regal tower and even sense the space energy in the regal tower. 100 million crystals was nothing to them. However, a month was too short for martial artists to comprehend the space energy. However, there was no other way. No one could control the regal tower. Not even peak godly emperors could. Of course, Longao had hundreds of millions of crystal stones on him. Without any hesitation, he went to the payment counter and paid 100 million crystal stones before walking in. Crystal stones were of no use to him. If he could successfully comprehend the power of space in the King Naming Pagoda, then not to mention 100 million crystal stones, even 1 trillion crystal stones would be a small problem. Longao's heart was in a mess. Although he had already paid 100 million crystal stones and was a peak superior god, if he wanted to enter the king-titled tower, he still had to be recognized by the king-titled tower. Chapter 2979. Kingship Hall. The gigantic hall gave off a majestic aura that shrouded the entire hall. It was mighty and gave off a sense of oppression. The moment he arrived at the kingship tower, Longao already knew why so many martial artists were rejected by the kingship tower. In the end, the rejection of martial artists by the kingship tower was equivalent to telling you that you had no chance of becoming a martial king. As for the warriors that could enter the king sealing pagoda to comprehend the power of space, once they comprehended the power of space and became a god king, they would be much stronger than the god kings that comprehended the power of space outside. It wasn't just Longao alone. There were hundreds of people standing in front of the kingship tower. By the looks of it, they were all people who had just paid the 100 million crystal stones and were ready to enter the kingship tower. Finally, someone tried. 100 million crystal stones. Once rejected by the kingship tower, it meant that you had no chance of becoming a god king in the future. No matter which heaven you headed to, the result would be the same. Failure. 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 Continuous failures. Before long, the hundreds of people had all tried. Only 10% of them had successfully entered the kingship tower. The rest were all blocked outside. Failure meant that they would never be able to become a god king. It would be a lie to say that they weren't depressed. Longao did not wait any longer as he took a step forward. After entering the kingship tower, Longao heaved a sigh of relief. He was afraid that he would be rejected by the kingship tower. There was a whole new world within the kingship tower. The space within the kingship tower was huge. Looking around, there were people everywhere. There were at least tens of thousands of them. Surprised, Longao was relieved. There were a total of 99 heaven regions in the chaos world. Not every heaven region had a kingship tower. Because of that, countless martial artists swarmed in. The people within the kingship tower were like a drop in the ocean to the entire chaos world. Longao did not care about the others. Instead, he immediately found a place to sit on the ground and began to cultivate. The flow of space within the kingship tower was indeed hundreds of times stronger than outside. What kind of concept was that? Comprehending the power of space here was much easier than outside. No wonder all the martial artists wanted to enter the kingship tower. Sitting on the ground, quietly, he sensed. Time passed by bit by bit. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. After comprehending for 5 years, Longao finally opened his eyes. He couldn't help but want to let out a long roar in his heart because he had successfully comprehended the power of space. Moreover, it was the power of space. What kind of concept was that? The fact that Longao had comprehended the power of space to perfection meant that he was a true peak master god at that moment. From the pinnacle high god level, he had directly leapt from the beginner lord level to the intermediate lord level, and then to the high level lord level, all the way to the pinnacle lord level. This sort of breakthrough had only taken him 5 years. To break through to become a peak lord from a peak high god in just 5 years, this sort of cultivation speed was enough to surpass all of his peers. Even Longao himself did not expect that his cultivation speed would be so fast. Peak lords. He was only one step away from officially becoming a godly king. However, in order to break through from a peak lord to a beginner godly king, he had to truly master spatial power. Comprehending spatial energy and mastering spatial energy were two completely different concepts. Why was he still in the king-titled pagoda? According to the restrictions of the king-titled pagoda, no matter who it was, even if they were acknowledged by the king-titled pagoda, they would not be able to last for more than a month. In other words, after a month, regardless of whether one was willing or not, they would be forcefully teleported out of the king-titled pagoda. This applied even to peak lords. Only he himself had not only stayed for a month, he had even stayed here for 5 whole years. As for what exactly was going on, even he himself had no idea. He could not figure it out. According to the rumors, as long as one was acknowledged by the king-titled pagoda and entered to comprehend the power of space and become a peak lord, they would be given a title in the king-titled pagoda. Longao also wanted to know what kind of title he would receive in the king-titled pagoda. In the end, he did not receive any title. He stood up and stretched his back. Longao was almost certain that his cultivation had successfully broken through to peak lord level. Even if he continued to stay here, it wouldn't be of much use. It was unlikely that he would be able to master spatial power and become a godly king. Just as Longao was about to leave, he suddenly turned around and looked at the top of the king-titled pagoda. He took a step forward and suddenly disappeared without a trace. Another one has been sent out. Sigh. Hurry up and comprehend. 100 million crystal stones can only be used once. If you can't comprehend the power of space, it'll be even more difficult next time. One by one, the cultivators were forcefully sent out. The remaining people were helpless. They were helpless in this situation. No one could reach the top of the king-titled pagoda, not even peak lords. Longao could be said to be the first one to arrive. He was about to leave when he suddenly sensed a pair of eyes staring at him from the top of the king-titled pagoda. Without even thinking, he took a step forward and arrived at the top of the king-titled pagoda in an instant. "Who are you?" Looking at the middle-aged man standing at the top of the king-titled pagoda, Longao was shocked. He could clearly sense that the other party had a vast and boundless aura. Even he could not sense the other party's true strength. The middle-aged man's face was full of vicissitudes. He gave off an unfathomable feeling. His eyes were deep as he said indifferently, "You came later than I expected. But it's all right. You've still come in the end. Longao, I hope you won't disappoint us again this time. Who are you?" "Hao Lin, you don't need to ask anything else. I hope you can awaken your Yuan spirit soon. I'll wait for you." Another Yuan spirit awakening. Longao could vaguely guess that the person in front of him should be the same as Nangong Yin and the divine mathematician. As for whether this person was his friend or foe, he still didn't know. Apart from the divine mathematician, even Nangong Yin didn't know if he was a friend or foe. Seeing Hao Lin disappear step by step, Longao couldn't help but sigh. It seemed that if he didn't awaken his Yuan spirit, he wouldn't know anything. It was getting more and more complicated. If this continued, he would become more and more passive. It didn't matter to him since he was already immortal. Even the divine mathematician and the others couldn't destroy him. What he was really worried about was his family. If these people wanted to deal with his family, he wouldn't be able to resist them even with the help of the Pill Hall. After all, Hao Lin and the others were too powerful. Even the Pill Hall couldn't contend against them. The more he thought about it, the more worried he became. At this moment, Hao Lin's voice suddenly drifted over. Chapter 2980. Be careful, Nangong Yin. You only have 10,000 years. Thank you. Even without Hao Lin's reminder, Longao naturally did not think that Nangong Yin was a friend. His instincts told him that Nangong Yin was not a simple person. 10,000 years. Longao's heart skipped a beat when he heard Hao Lin mention 10,000 years. Did that mean that he still had 10,000 years to prepare? If he had not awakened his primordial spirit after 10,000 years, things would not be so easy. His face was solemn. As for the issue of a title, it was impossible to obtain one in the kingship tower. Longao did not want to dwell on this issue. He stood at the top of the kingship tower and looked down at the entire kingship tower. So, someone did this on purpose. Everything is a trap. Everyone was an insider in a game of chess. As for who was the one who set up the game of chess, no one knew. It was because of this that Longao did not want to stay any longer. Everything was a little uncomfortable. 10,000 years seemed like a long time. However, to martial artists, 10,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Some martial artists could even go into seclusion for 10,000 years. Leaving the kingship tower, he did not meet with any trouble at all. Du Lei. Du Lei was a lord. Longao naturally knew why Du Lei was here. If it was in the past, he would definitely not be Du Lei's match. However, the situation was completely different now. In the 5 years in the kingship tower, he finally comprehended the power of space and became a peak lord. The number one person below the godly kings. Longao was extremely confident that he could kill anyone below the godly king level. Even if it was a peak lord, he could kill him instantly. As for whether he was a match for a godly king, even if it was a beginner godly king, it was still unknown. He snorted coldly. Longao did not leave. Instead, he followed He Zhongtian quietly. Once He Zhongtian left, he would attack without hesitation. After all, he had come to the Zonglongtian region this time to kill Du Lei and He Zhongtian. It was just as Longao had guessed. He Zhongtian had indeed come this time to try entering the kingship tower. He had already cultivated in the kingship tower before. He had become a lord because of the kingship tower. But He Zhongtian couldn't wait any longer. There was only a single rank difference between a peak lord and a low-level godly king. It was just that even after so many years, he still could not truly master spatial power. After thinking for a long time, In the end, He Zhongtian was still prepared to enter the king-titled pagoda to cultivate. As for the 100 million crystal stones, it was nothing to him. But what was the result? This time, He Zhongtian was directly rejected by the king-titled pagoda. He was completely dumbfounded. He Zhongtian couldn't understand why he was rejected by the king-titled pagoda when he could enter previously. What was going on? He Zhongtian didn't continue staying because he knew that no matter how many times he tried, once he was rejected by the kingship pagoda, he wouldn't have any hope of entering the kingship pagoda again. He felt helpless. He Zhongtian turned around and left helplessly. Everyone seemed to know He Zhongtian's identity. When they saw him, they were all very respectful. In addition, his strength made him even more respectable. After being rejected by the king-naming pagoda, He Zhongtian was prepared to return to the Sanskrit sect immediately. There were still many things waiting for him. Outside Zonglong city, in a deserted place, He Zhongtian sneered and said, "Who are you? Why have you been following me?" Longao purposely let He Zhongtian find him. Otherwise, how could he deal with He Zhongtian? He Zhongtian, long time no see. How have you been? Looking at the person who suddenly walked out, He Zhongtian's expression changed. He didn't expect that the person who had been following him would be Longao. Wasn't Longao bedeviled? Looking at the clear-headed Longao, He Zhongtian knew that the rumors couldn't be trusted. Longao obviously wasn't bedeviled. Even if he was, it would be a temporary thing. You want to take revenge? His face was filled with mockery. As Longao was hiding his strength, He Zhongtian couldn't find out his true strength at all. To him, Longao was still a peak superior god. He knew better than anyone how big the gap between a peak superior god and a peak lord god was. How could Longao not know what He Zhongtian was thinking in his heart? He Zhongtian, you and Du Lei chased after me back then. Now that I'm standing in front of you, why aren't you attacking? Huh! Looking at the calm Longao, He Zhongtian didn't attack. The more the other party was like this, the more wary He Zhongtian was. Could it be that Longao had some backing for coming here so openly? That shouldn't be possible. The other party was clearly a peak superior god. How could he be a match for He Zhongtian? For some reason, He Zhongtian had a bad feeling in his heart. Longao's visit this time around definitely wasn't that simple. Could it be that the reason why He Zhongtian could sense the other party's presence earlier on was because of Longao's intention? If that was the case, what was Longao trying to do? Longao, you and I don't have much of a grudge to begin with. The reason why Du Lei and I attacked you previously was because you stole our power light spot. As long as you hand over the power light spot, we'll forget about our grudge. How about that? Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha. Longao laughed maniacally. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen someone as shameless as this. He laughed coldly and said, I'm really puzzled. Since when did the power light spot become yours and Du Lei's? Are you joking with me? I can tell you that the power light spot has nothing to do with you at all. I've already devoured it. Devoured the power light spot? Of course, He Zhongtian wouldn't choose to believe Longao's words. That was a complete joke. Even he and Du Lei couldn't devour the power light spot, let alone Longao. Longao was just a puny superior god. How could he devour the power light spot? What a joke. Looking at He Zhongtian's expression, Longao knew that He Zhongtian didn't believe him. The power light spot had been devoured by both of them. There was no way he could take it out. Longao, seems like you don't want to take out the power light spot. He Zhongtian's face finally turned cold. He knew very well how powerful the power light spot was. Even now, he still regretted it. If he hadn't let Longao get off the flying warship, all these things wouldn't have happened. It was too late for regrets. So what if I am? Longao, do you think that you're a match for me? Longao did not continue to talk nonsense. With a stride forward, his entire person rushed out. Before he arrived, his terrifying aura had already suppressed him. Both of his palms turned into fists and smashed towards He Zhongtian. It was continuous, as if it could topple mountains and overturn seas. Chapter 2981. Xiao He was still only a pinnacle higher god and could only devour mid-level master gods. He was still no match for He Zhongtian. However, Xiao He had already mentioned that he could devour an endless amount of energy right now. That was the only way he could refine the inheritance within his body at an even faster rate. As a pinnacle master god, one could only imagine the amount of power that He Zhongtian possessed. Boom, boom, boom. A series of loud sounds rang out. Longao's fists punched out repeatedly. They were as fast as lightning, one punch after another, leaving no gaps. Pinnacle Master God! You've really devoured the power light spot. They were completely dumbfounded. How long had it been since they left Black Rock City? No matter how heaven-defying Longao's potential was, there was no way he could have leveled up from a pinnacle higher god to a pinnacle master god. It wasn't a matter of talent. The reason why Longao could level up so quickly could only mean one thing: Longao had devoured the power light spot. They were completely stunned. Even they could not devour the power light spot. How did Longao do it? Inconceivable. At this moment, He Zhongtian finally understood why Longao dared to seek him out and even leak his aura to him on purpose. So, he had something to rely on. But it was too late for regrets now. Under the continuous attacks, He Zhongtian could not even defend against a single blow. And this was under the condition that Longao had yet to use his killer move. Otherwise, He Zhongtian might not even be able to defend against a single blow. This was Longao's strength. It was way above other martial artists of the same cultivation level. Xiao He, devour him. Alright, big bro. Xiao He could not wait any longer. The power of a pinnacle master god was exactly what he needed. Within the kingship pagoda, Boss had already successfully comprehended the power of space and became a pinnacle master god. As for Xiao He, he was still stuck at the same spot. In Xiao He's opinion, he had to level up as soon as possible. Otherwise, the distance between him and Boss would only grow further. Longao, you can't kill me. The Sanskrit sect won't let you off. Sanskrit sect? He scoffed coldly. Back when he was a higher god, he did not even fear the ruler of the Black Rock Heavenly region, let alone the Sanskrit sect. In Longao's eyes, Nangong Fengyun and the Sanskrit sect. Crack. Xiao He directly swallowed him. Even his origin spirit did not have time to escape before it was completely devoured. Little Black, how do you feel? Longao was very depressed as well. Although he had successfully broken through to peak over God, he was still no match for a God King. It really was an unknown. If Xiao He could successfully break through to become a lord, especially a peak lord, then there was no doubt that Xiao He could devour God Kings. Blackie shook his head helplessly. He sighed deeply. Boss, just the power of a sovereign alone isn't enough for me to absorb the legacy within me as quickly as possible. So that was the case. I understand. Longao immediately fled with Blackie. Instead of leaving, he continued to return to Zonglong City. Beast Core. Longao really couldn't just rely on killing. If it was an enemy, then he definitely wouldn't be merciful. It was just that he couldn't do it to ordinary people. The only way, which was also the most convenient way, was to swallow beast cores, especially powerful ones. In Zonglong City, as he approached a shop that specialized in beast cores, a receptionist immediately approached him and asked politely, "May I know what kind of beast cores you would like to purchase?" Beast Core Pavilion was the largest shop in the entire Zonglong Sky region that sold beast cores, especially in Zonglong City. They sold beast cores of all grades, even God King level divine beasts beast cores. Do you have level 5 beast cores? Level 5 beast cores were equivalent to God King level divine beasts. Yes, how many would you like to purchase? The receptionist was delighted. Under normal circumstances, very few people would purchase level 4 beast cores. As for level 5 beast cores, it was even more unlikely. After all, level 5 beast cores were equivalent to God King level and required an astronomical amount of crystal stones. How many crystal stones would a level 5 beast core cost? This was what Longao was most concerned about. 10 billion crystal stones. F***ck, he cursed in his heart. He had already guessed that the value of a 5th level beastan was very high, But he still did not expect that a 5th-level beast Dan would be worth tens of billions of crystal stones. A beast Dan worth 10 billion crystal stones, even Longao was shocked. Previously, he had obtained about 700 million crystal stones. When he killed He Zhongtian and obtained He Zhongtian's interspatial ring, there were more than 10 billion crystal stones in the ring. He thought that it would be a huge fortune, but he never thought that 10 billion crystal stones would only be enough to purchase a level 5 beast core. He was helpless. I only need a level 5 beast core. Here are the crystal stones, you can get it for me. As for the grade of beast core, you can decide. He didn't want to waste any time. As long as it was a level 5 beast core, it was fine. As for what divine beast core it didn't matter to Longao. The receptionist was pleasantly surprised. It was rare to see such a straightforward customer. He didn't dare to hesitate. After all, level 5 beast cores were usually hard to sell. If he could sell a level 5 beast core, the commission would be very good. In a short while, the receptionist had already retrieved a beast core. He said with a smile, "This is a Wind Dragon Tiger's beast core. The Wind Dragon Tiger is a high-level divine beast among level 5 spiritual beasts." Okay. Longao took the beast core and left. He didn't want to waste any time. After leaving, he immediately found a secluded place and took out the level 5 beast core. He said, "Xiao Hei, if you swallow this level 5 beast core, will you be able to advance?" Xiao Hei was very touched. After all, he knew very well what 10 billion crystal stones meant. He nodded confidently and said, "Don't worry, big brother. With this level 5 beast core, even if I can't break through to Peak Lord, I can at least break through to Intermediate Lord." He was overjoyed. "Start swallowing it immediately. Do it in my chaotic dantian." Okay. Without any hesitation, Blackie immediately took the level 5 beast pill and entered Longao's dantian. He began to devour it. He had to devour the level 5 beast pill at the fastest speed to refine the inheritance in his body. In this way, once his cultivation base advanced to the position of overgod, he would be able to devour even divine kings. Longao didn't go anywhere. He rented an isolated courtyard in Zonglong City and cultivated quietly. Other than guarding Xiao Hei, he also cultivated quietly. He hoped to master the power of space as soon as possible so that he could advance to a god king. Although there was only a difference of 1 rank between a lord and a god king, the difference in their abilities was countless times. With his current abilities, he was no match for a god king. However, if he could advance to the god king realm, it would be a different concept. He would be able to contend with a god king expert. Even if it was a peak god king, he wouldn't be helpless. Chapter 2982. Comprehending space and mastering space were two different things altogether. Originally, he was prepared to continue heading to the Kingship Tower because many peak lords had mastered the power of space in the Kingship Tower and became godly kings from there. But now, Longao was not prepared to head to the Kingship Tower at all. It was a complete joke. He could clearly sense that someone in the Kingship Tower must have done this on purpose. If he had known, he would not have entered the Kingship Tower to comprehend the power of space even if he was beaten to death. His instincts told him that the Kingship Tower was not that simple. On the 3rd day, "Xiao Hei, you've already devoured a level 5 beast pill so quickly?" Xiao Hei was also pleasantly surprised. He said, "This is just 1 level 5 beast pill. If I can get a few more, I believe that my cultivation base can be on par with boss and break through to peak lord level." Currently, Xiao Hei had successfully broken through to beginner lord level after refining the level 5 beast pill. The difference between beginner lord level and peak lord level was too great. "Xiao Hei, your cultivation base has successfully broken through to beginner lord level. What level of martial artists can you devour?" That was the key. Xiao Hei was helpless. He said with a smile, "Boss, with my current ability, I can only devour peak lord level martial artists at most. As for godly kings, I can't devour them yet." Longao had already guessed it. He was not surprised at all. "In that case, we'll work hard to earn crystals and buy more level 5 beast pills for you." Xiao Hei's situation was completely different from his. Even if he had a chaotic dantian, It was impossible for his cultivation speed to be without bottlenecks. However, Xiao He could do it without any bottlenecks. As long as Xiao He had enough beast pills to devour, there was no doubt that Xiao He could continue to break through. To Longao, earning spar was not a difficult matter. It was just that tens of billions of spar was not a small number either. The fastest way to earn crystals was to sell pills. Currently, Longao was only a level 4 formation master and level 4 elixir inscription master. He could only refine level 4 pills. He knew the value of level 4 pills better than anyone else. The most important thing now was to raise his elixir inscription level as soon as possible. In that case, once he refined level 5 pills, it would not be difficult to exchange them for level 5 beast pills. The difference between a tier 4 inscriptionist and a tier 5 inscriptionist was like a watershed. The gap between the two was extremely large. Countless level 4 pill inscription masters had been stuck at this stage. Even Longao wasn't completely confident that he could become a tier 5 pill inscription master. He had to break through. Failure. He still failed. He still failed. In the span of 3 months, Longao had failed to refine a level 5 medicinal pill. What was going on? Longao sat very gloomily. He really couldn't figure out what was going on. Under normal circumstances, he had tried to refine a level 5 pill many times before. Every time, he was just a little bit away from successfully refining a level 5 pill, but he never succeeded. It was impossible for him not to be depressed when he failed at the last step. Let alone becoming a 5th level pill inscription master. Even if he became a 5th level formation master, for some unknown reason, he was still unable to become a 5th level formation master. It was the same as refining pills. He was also at the last step, unable to successfully advance. This was not the way to go. He could not figure it out. Boss, I have an idea. I don't know if it can help you. Tell me about it. Boss, have you ever thought about it? Every time you advance, your alchemy and formation skills advance at the same time. Why don't you try combining them? That was right. Hearing Xiao He's words, Longao suddenly understood and said, "You're right. I'll try it right away." Without any hesitation, Longao immediately began to advance his formation skills and alchemy at the same time. It was just as Xiao He said. Longao, who had been stuck at the tier 4 bottleneck, had successfully advanced to a tier 5 pill inscription master and a tier 5 formation master in just one day. He couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. If it weren't for Xiao He's enlightenment, he would probably be stuck at the tier 4 bottleneck for the rest of his life. Xiao He, I'm going to refine a level 5 medicinal pill now. If nothing goes wrong, 2 level 5 medicinal pills can be exchanged for a beast pill. The value of a beast pill was far less than a medicinal pill. After all, to refine a high-level medicinal pill, one needed a beast pill. Swallowing a beast pill would have side effects, and one would even have to face the risk of being devoured by the beast pill. However, swallowing a beast pill was different. The chance of a backlash would be infinitely lower. After successfully advancing to a tier 5 pill inscription master, Longao did not hesitate and immediately began to refine the medicinal pill. Not only that, he even gathered a spirit-gathering formation in the medicinal pill. This way, he could make up for the problem of not being able to fuse a beast pill. If this was in the past, it would be impossible. This was because in order to refine a level 5 medicinal pill, one must use a level 5 beast pill. This was the real reason why level 4 medicinal pills and level 5 medicinal pills were so expensive. A level 5 beast pill required tens of billions of crystal stones. One could imagine how much a level 5 beast pill was worth. Although he had already become a martial skill pill inscription master, it was not easy for Longao to refine a level 5 medicinal pill. After refining for 3 days and 3 nights, he only managed to refine 3 level 5 medicinal pills. He then took them to the pill hall and exchanged them for more than 40 billion crystal stones. Then, he bought 4 level 5 beast pills. For level 5 beast pills were too important to Xiao He. After swallowing them, his cultivation level instantly skyrocketed. He broke through from a beginner lord to a peak lord. However, if he wanted to continue to break through, just swallowing level 5 beast pills was far from enough. However, all of this was enough. After all, he and Xiao Hei's cultivation speed was very fast. In the following time, they had to completely stabilize their cultivation level and then find a way to control the power of space. Xiao Hei, with your current strength, what level of martial artist can you devour? This was what Longao was most concerned about. His cultivation level had just broken through to a peak lord. It was still unknown whether he could fight against a god king. However, Xiao Hei's situation was clearly different. Of course, Xiao Hei knew what his boss meant. After thinking about it, he said, according to my guess, with my current strength, I should be able to devour beginner god kings. As for whether I can devour intermediate god kings, that's very difficult. That's enough. Longao was not surprised at all. After all, a god king had truly mastered the power of space. For Xiao Hei to be able to devour beginner god kings as a peak lord was already an extremely powerful existence. The chaotic heaven-devouring beast's heaven-devouring divine ability alone was not something to be trifled with. Boss, since you've already killed He Zhongtian, why don't we attack the Sanskrit sound sect and kill Du Lei? Shocked, Longao immediately said, as the #1 sect in the Zonglongtian region, the Sanskrit sound sect's foundation and strength are not something we can fight against. P.S. Many people have privately messaged Xiao Ju. He caught a bad cold a few days ago, so he's a little less today. He's going to release 10 chapters tomorrow, starting at midnight tonight. Chapter 2983. That was a joke. The Sanskrit sound sect was the top sect in the Zonglong heaven region. Especially the master of the Sanskrit sound sect, who was a god emperor. As for the Sanskrit sound sect, they had many god king elders. With just his and Blackie's strength, it would be like hitting a rock with an egg to fight against the entire Sanskrit sound sect. After successfully killing He Zhongtian, only Du Lei was left. If Du Lei stayed in the Sanskrit sound sect, he wouldn't stand a chance. Now that Du Lei left alone, he would have a chance. Blackie knew that it wouldn't be easy. He was just unwilling. Boss, what should we do now? Cultivate and break through to God King as soon as possible. Then, even if we face a peak God King, we'll be able to fight. God Kings were split into 4 realms: beginner God King, intermediate God King, advanced God King, and peak God King. Breaking through to God King was easy to think about but extremely difficult to do. Sanskrit sound sect. Du Lei already knew about He Zhongtian's death. Back then, he was afraid that someone else would die. Both of them had left a primordial spirit jade token. As long as one of them died, the other would know instantly. Looking at the primordial spirit jade token in his hand, Du Lei was shocked. He Zhongtian was dead. How was that possible? Du Lei knew very well that He Zhongtian had left the sect to go to Zonglong City because he wanted to continue cultivating in the king-naming pagoda. Why would he suddenly die? What was going on? What was going on? Of course, Du Lei knew the severity of the matter. Someone actually dared to kill a master god protector of the Sanskrit sound sect in the Zonglong heaven region. This was a challenge to the Sanskrit sound sect. Without hesitation, Du Lei immediately headed to the Grand Elder's residence. The Grand Elder, Miao Zhongyi, was the elder of the Sanskrit sound sect. He was a peak god king expert. Under normal circumstances, the master of the Sanskrit sound sect, Yi Mo, didn't care about the sect. Instead, it was the Grand Elder who was in charge. Everyone in the sect wasn't afraid of the master, but the Grand Elder. In an elegant courtyard. Du Lei, what are you doing? How can you be so flustered? He was unhappy. Miao Zhongyi was an old man with a full beard. He had a dignified expression. He sat quietly and looked at Du Lei in front of him with dissatisfaction. He bowed respectfully. Du Lei immediately took out a broken jade tablet from his bosom and said, "Great Elder, he was killed." Grand Elder, there's something you don't know. Back then, Elder He and I each gave each other an Essence Soul jade token. Once one of us dies, the other person's jade token will shatter. Continue. Du Lei recounted the entire matter in detail, not daring to leave out the slightest detail. The sect's protector was killed in the Zonglong Tian region. This could be a big or small matter. Miao Zhongyi's face became gloomier and gloomier as his body emitted endless killing intent. Do you know who it is? He nodded, then shook his head. What's going on? Du Lei did not dare to hide anything. He said, Great Elder, although I don't know who did it, I'm sure that this person killed Elder He. Then, he must have Elder His aura on him. As long as we lock onto the broken jade token, we'll be able to find out who it is. I see. Du Lei continued, previously, Elder He went to the King Naming Tower in Zonglong City, hoping to master the power of space and become a divine king. If I'm not wrong, this person should still be in the Zonglong Tian region. The Zonglong Tian region was boundless. It was easier said than done to find a person. It was as difficult as finding a needle in the sea. Let's go to Zonglong City and have a look. Yes. Don't leak this out. Just the two of us will go. I'd like to see who dares to kill the people of the Sanskrit Sound sect. Miao Zhongyi and Du Lei left the Sanskrit Sound sect without telling anyone. After all, it was better not to leak this matter. Zonglong City. Domain Lord Manor. There was no city lord in Zonglong City, only the domain lord. In fact, in many core cities of the heavenly regions, there was only the domain lord manor. The domain lord of the Zonglong Tian region, Xiao Fan, was a junior divine emperor who had mastered the space domain. He was very powerful among all the junior divine emperors. He was also very good at socializing with people. Domain Lord, the great elder of the Sanskrit Sound sect is here to see you. The Sanskrit Sound sect. The great elder Miao Zhongyi? Xiao Fan did not know why the great elder of the Sanskrit Sound sect would come to the domain lord manor. He was very curious and did not dare to be rude. He said, please. The Sanskrit Sound sect was much more powerful than the domain lord manor in the Zonglong Tian region. Therefore, Xiao Fan did not want to provoke the Sanskrit Sound sect. They had been living peacefully for a long time. After a short while, Miao Zhongyi and Du Lei came in. Xiao Fan said with a smile, Brother Miao, you've come from afar. Please forgive me for not welcoming you. Domain Lord Xiao, long time no see. How are you? Both of them were old foxes with ulterior motives. Brother Miao, what brings you here? Xiao Fan knew very well that Miao Zhongyi would not come to the domain lord manor for no reason. There must be something fishy going on. Miao Zhongyi did not want to beat around the bush. After all, this was not the Sanskrit Sound sect but the domain lord manor's territory. Xiao Fan was the domain lord of the domain lord manor. Without Miao Zhongyi's help, it would be difficult to deal with this matter. Moreover, he did not want Miao Zhongyi to misunderstand. Domain Lord Xiao, the domain lord manor and the Sanskrit Sound sect have always been on good terms. This time, we're here to find someone. We hope you can help us. Who? Here's the thing. Miao Zhongyi did not hide anything and told Xiao Fan about the matter. Xiao Fan was shocked. He did not expect that someone would dare to kill the protector of the Sanskrit Sound sect in the Zonglong Tian region. Moreover, it was very likely that it happened in Zonglong City. If that was the case, the domain lord manor would be in trouble. It seemed that Miao Zhongyi did not want to cause a misunderstanding with the domain lord manor, so he came to find Xiao Fan. Brother Miao, I will do my best to help you in this matter. If this person really takes action in Zonglong City, not to mention the Sanskrit Sound sect, even I will not let him off easily. Miao Zhongyi was not a fool. Of course, he knew that Xiao Fan deliberately said this for him to hear so that the domain lord manor would not be implicated. However, this matter had nothing to do with the domain lord manor. If the domain lord manor could help them, it would save them a lot of trouble. Thinking of this, Miao Zhongyi cupped his fists and said with a smile, in that case, I thank you very much. The Sanskrit Sound sect will definitely repay you for what you did today. Chapter 2984. Longao did not know that the two men from Sanskrit Sound sect had come to Zonglong City. Longao did not leave. Instead, he stayed in Zonglong City. In his opinion, the most dangerous place was the safest place. What Longao did not know was that He Zhongtian and Du Lei had each other's primordial spirit jade pendant. Du Lei knew that he had killed He Zhongtian and had reported it to the Great Elder. Du Lei had used the broken jade pendant to find out who had killed He Zhongtian and had the help of Xiaofan and Miao Zhongyi. How is it? Domain Chief's manner. Miao Zhongyi's face was gloomy and he looked terrible. Miao Zhongyi knew very well that if the person who had killed He Zhongtian was not in Zonglong City, he must have left. It was difficult to find someone in Zonglong Sky territory. If the person had left Zonglong Sky territory, it would be even more impossible to find him. In his opinion, he still hoped that the person who had killed He Zhongtian was in Zonglong City. Great Elder, I have found him. Miao Zhongyi was delighted. He could not wait to ask, where is he? Northeast. As for who he is, I can't find him yet. Let's go. Since they had found the general location, it was much easier to handle. Not only Du Lei and Miao Zhongyi, but even Xiaofan followed them. However, the rest of the people from Domain Chief's manor did not follow them. In Xiaofan's opinion, as long as the person was not a divine emperor, he and Miao Zhongyi could destroy him in minutes. There was no doubt about it. Northeast of Zonglong City, Longao was cultivating quietly in the courtyard. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. Two beams of light shot out from his eyes as he stared at the three figures who were approaching him quickly. The three figures arrived in an instant. Looking at Du Lei, Longao's heart skipped a beat. He had guessed that Sanskrit Sound Sect had found out that he had killed He Zhongtian. How did Sanskrit Sound Sect know about it? Longao. Looking at the young man in front of him, Du Lei looked at him again and realized that the person who killed He Zhongtian was Longao. Is this true? Even if Longao was extremely talented and had already become a peak martial master, he could forget about killing He Zhongtian. No matter what, a peak martial arts master and a lord were not on the same level. Not only that. According to the rumors, Longao had already turned into a demon, and by chance, he had killed the city lord of Black Rock City, Nangong Chen. If that was the case, why was this person still here? You know this person? Since things had already come to this, Du Lei naturally did not dare to continue hiding it. Then, he recounted everything that had happened earlier in detail. With a heavy snort, Miao Zhongyi's expression became increasingly gloomy. The two of them actually concealed such a big matter and did not report it. In the end, the two of them still wanted to monopolize the light spots. We'll talk about this when we get back. Hearing the Great Elder's words, Du Lei's heart trembled. He knew what the Great Elder meant. Once he returned to the sect, his situation would be very bad. He let out a deep sigh. There was nothing he could do if he didn't go back. With the strength of the Sanskrit sect, even if he ran to the ends of the earth, the situation would be even worse. Did you kill Elder He Zhongtian of the Sanskrit sect? So what if I did? Ha ha ha, what an arrogant brat. Miao Zhongyi laughed. He had seen arrogant people before, but he had never seen such an arrogant person. Facing him and a junior divine emperor, he actually dared to be so arrogant. Arrogant? Longao also laughed, and said even more arrogantly, so what if I'm arrogant? Could it be that only they are allowed to hunt me down, but I can't kill them? Looking coldly at Du Lei, who was beside Miao Zhongyi, Longao said coldly, Du Lei, you will end up like He Zhongtian. I hope you don't leave the Sanskrit sect. Otherwise, I will definitely tear you to pieces. Just by you? Du Lei did not take Longao seriously at all. Not to mention him, even the other two thought that Longao must have played some tricks to be able to kill He Zhongtian. Miao Zhongyi was very uncomfortable. If he had known about this earlier, he might have already obtained the power light spot. How could Miao Zhongyi not know what the power light spot meant when even the overgod could not refine it? If he could devour the power light spot, he would know what it meant. Perhaps he could use the power of the light spot to break through to the divine emperor realm. But now, it was because of the selfishness of the two that he had lost the power light spot. It would be a lie to say that he was not angry. But now was not the time to be angry. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Miao Zhongyi looked coldly at the young man in front of him and said, if you don't have the power light spot, as long as you hand it over, I can promise not to kill you. I will only seal you in the Sanskrit sect. How about it? For the power light spot, Miao Zhongyi suppressed the killing intent in his heart. As long as he could get the power light spot, it would not matter if he did not kill this person. Du Lei was shocked. However, the first elder's words carried enormous weight. Since he had already spoken, no matter how uncomfortable and displeased he was, he could only forcefully endure it. As an outsider, Xiao Fan could not say much. As long as he could capture this person, he did not care whether this person was dead or alive. Who are you? Until now, Longao still did not know the identity of the two people beside Du Lei. However, one was a peak divine king and the other was a junior divine emperor. It was obvious that they were not simple people. H. This is the great elder of the Sanskrit sect, Miao Zhongyi. This is the territorial lord of Zonglong City, Xiao Fan. Why don't you kneel down and greet them? Du Lei said deliberately. How could Longao not know what Du Lei meant? He did not care at all. He laughed and said, so what if you are the great elder of the Sanskrit sect? What does it have to do with me? As for territorial Lord Xiao, I really can't figure it out. This is a grudge between the Sanskrit sect. If you meddle in other people's business, don't blame me for finding trouble with you in the future and eliminating your territorial lord mansion. Not to mention Xiao Fan, even Du Lei and Miao Zhongyi were shocked when they heard Longao's words. Longao was extremely arrogant. He was the domain lord of Zonglong Heavenly Domain and a primary divine emperor. No matter where he went, he would always be at the top. He had never been humiliated like this before. For a domain lord, this was simply a great humiliation. However, Xiao Fan was not as angry as he had imagined. Instead, he asked calmly, who are you? I wonder if territorial Lord Xiao has heard about the Black Stone Heavenly Region? The matter of the Black Stone Heavenly Region had shaken the entire chaotic world. Many big cities had already known about it. Chapter 2985. Zonglong Heavenly Region was a middle heavenly region. How could he not know about the Blackstone Heavenly Region? He was shocked. Xiao Fan never thought that the person who destroyed the Domain Lord's manor and the City Lord's manor was the young man in front of him. According to the rumors, Longao had the support of the Pill Hall. The Pill Hall even destroyed the Domain Lord's manor and the City Lord's manor just to find an excuse. Longao even killed Nangong Chen. What did it mean? The Pill Hall was like a colossus. Xiao Fan knew that he and the Domain Lord's manor were no match for the Pill Hall. Miao Zhongyi was also shocked. He also didn't expect that Longao was the one who destroyed the Blackstone Heavenly Domain's domain chief manor. He cursed Du Lei in his heart. Mph, so what if you're Longao? How dare you kill the protector of the Sanskrit sound sect? Even the Pill Hall can't protect you. Xiao Fan had the intention to retreat. After all, it had nothing to do with him. There was no need to offend Longao and the Pill Hall for the Sanskrit sound sect. It would be a lie if he said that he wasn't afraid of the Pill Hall. Brother Miao, since you've already locked on to this person, I'll leave now. Just as expected. Miao Zhongyi cursed in his heart. The Pill Hall was really powerful. Even Xiao Fan from the Domain Lord's manor was afraid of them. Longao sneered. Thank you, Domain Lord Xiao. You'll be glad that you're calm today. Xiao Fan smiled helplessly. He had been in the chaotic world for so many years. He had seen many young and arrogant people. However, he had never seen such an arrogant person. Even if this person had the support of the Pill Hall, he was still a domain lord and a divine emperor expert. It seemed that the other party didn't put him in his eyes at all. However, Xiao Fan was indeed afraid of the Pill Hall. If it wasn't for the Pill Hall, he wouldn't have acted like this. Miao Zhongyi was furious. However, he suppressed his anger and said, don't you care about the relationship between the Domain Lord's manor and the Sanskrit sound sect? Shameless. When did the Domain Lord's manor and the Sanskrit sound sect have a relationship? Xiao Fan cursed in his heart. He knew what Miao Zhongyi meant. It was impossible for the Sanskrit sound sect alone to fight against the Pill Hall. If they could get the Domain Lord's manor to help them, they would have a partner. Both of them were sly old foxes. They were playing little tricks, each with their own ulterior motives. Brother Miao, Longao is still a member of the Pill Hall. You should know how serious this matter is. Xiao Fan did not want to continue. He did not want his domain master's mansion to fall into a state of eternal damnation. You. Before Du Lei could speak, Longao said, Territorial Lord Xiao, if you want to leave, please hurry up. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. If it wasn't for the fact that the other party was Longao, Xiao Fan would have already slapped him. Xiao Fan knew clearly that the reason why Longao dared to do so was because he had the backing of the Pill Hall. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to do so. The more it was like this, the more uncertain Xiao Fan felt. The Pill Hall could destroy the Domain Lord's mansion and the City Lord's mansion in the Blackstone Heavenly region for this person. Nobody could guarantee that the Pill Hall wouldn't destroy the Domain Lord's mansion and himself for this person. If the Pill Hall wanted to destroy him, it would be a piece of cake. He did not want to stay any longer. In the next second, without waiting for Miao Zhongyi to say anything, Xiao Fan turned around and left. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared without a trace. Trash. Miao Zhongyi scolded fiercely. He looked at the young man in front of him coldly and sneered, Longao, don't do whatever you want just because you have the backing of the Pill Hall. I would like to see what the Pill Hall will do if I kill you today. If it wasn't for the light spot, Miao Zhongyi might be afraid of the Pill Hall. He wouldn't kill Longao and would only suppress him. But now, if he could successfully kill this person, he would search Longao's soul even if it would harm his Dao. By then, he would be able to find the light spot's power and break through to the Divine Emperor realm. He did not know why. Miao Zhongyi had a feeling that as long as he could obtain the light spot's power, he would be able to break through to the Divine King realm and become a Divine Emperor. Humans were like that. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that way. Seeing that Xiao Fan had left, Longao did not want to waste any more time. Since he was going to fight anyway, there was no need to waste time. He took a step forward. Longao's figure had already dashed out. Before he arrived, the Shen Yuan sword in his hand had already stabbed out fiercely. The 9 god-slaying swords were quickly unleashed. Each sword was faster than the previous one. He did not give the two of them any chance. Presumptuous. You're courting death. Seeing that the other party dared to take the initiative to attack, Miao Zhongyi was furious. His hand turned into a palm and immediately shot out countless palm shadows. Not only could a peak divine king confine space and kill, he could even break through space. This was the strength of a peak divine king. This palm not only confined space, but it could also kill. How could an ordinary overgod block it? Seeing that Longao had already become a peak divine king, Du Lei was shocked. He finally knew why Longao could kill He Zhongtian. With such powerful abilities, it would not be difficult for him to kill Du Lei, let alone kill He Zhongtian. No wonder Longao had boasted shamelessly and asked Du Lei to stay in the Sanskrit sect. It turned out that he had something to rely on. Du Lei felt scared just thinking about it. Fortunately, he had reported this to the Grand Elder. If he had come to look for Longao alone, he could imagine the consequences. Du Lei immediately retreated. Now that the Grand Elder had attacked, as long as nothing unexpected happened, Longao would definitely die. Seeing that Du Lei had retreated, Longao was delighted. This was the situation he wanted. Xiao He, swallow him. In the past, Xiao He might not have been able to do so. However, Xiao He was no longer the same as before. He had successfully broken through to peak over God. Even swallowing beginner god kings would not be difficult for him, let alone over gods. Just as Longao's voice fell, a huge black monster suddenly appeared. It really scared Du Lei. However, after being shocked, he didn't even have time to react before he was directly swallowed by Xiao He. Xiao He swallowed Du Lei cleanly. Xiao He, who had successfully broken through to peak over God, could instantly devour any cultivator below God King. Miao Zhongyi was completely enraged when he saw Du Lei being devoured by the spirit beast right in front of his eyes. This was simply a great humiliation for him. Gradually, Miao Zhongyi also realized that something was wrong. Could it be that the man and the beast were doing this on purpose? If that was the case, then they had gone too far. Just as Miao Zhongyi was about to kill Du Lei, the situation changed. Longao and Xiao He suddenly vanished from where they were, entering his chaotic dantian. They had vanished right before Miao Zhongyi's eyes. Even an idiot could guess that the two of them definitely possessed a spatial artifact. P.S. Thank you for the tip, Brother Hai Bin. Chapter 2986. Longao, come out. There was no movement. Longao, if you're still a man, then get the hell out of here. You coward, I'll definitely tear you to shreds. There was still no movement. Miao Zhongyi did not choose to give up because he was certain that even if the other party could enter the spatial artifact, he would not be able to leave. He was very confident in his aura. He was very confident. There was no hesitation. Miao Zhongyi immediately confined the surrounding space. As long as he could confine the other party, there was a chance to kill him. Longao and Blackie had already hidden in his chaotic dantian. Boss, we can't go on like this. That old man will definitely not let this go. Are we going to stay here forever? Blackie was very depressed. He could not wait to go out and kill again. He was lawless. Blackie had such a character. Even if he was facing a peak divine king, he still had no fear. Instead, he had a soaring battle intent. Longao liked Blackie's character very much. No matter if it was a martial artist or a spiritual beast, they should be like this. They should be brave and invincible. Miao Zhongyi is a peak divine king. There is no need for us to fight him head-on. Looking for an opportunity. Longao knew very well that even if he and Blackie were to face a peak divine king, they would not be a match for the other party. Since that was the case, there was no need to waste more time. They could only use their wits and not brute force. Blackie was very obedient to Longao's words. He would follow whatever his boss said and would not be unwilling to do so. As soon as Xiao Fan left, he immediately sealed the surroundings of the courtyard. He was not willing to reveal this matter. Who knew if it would implicate him? But the result? Under normal circumstances. With Miao Zhongyi's strength, it would be a matter of minutes if he wanted to kill or take Longao away. Now, a few hours had passed. No matter if it was Du Lei or Longao, none of them had left the courtyard. It would be a lie to say that there was nothing fishy going on. Out of curiosity, Xiao Fan quietly came to the courtyard. He realized that only Miao Zhongyi was there. As for Du Lei and Longao, they were not in the courtyard. What was going on? Region Lord Xiao, since you are here, why don't you show yourself? Xiao Fan knew that the other party had already discovered him, so he did not continue to hide and walked out. Congratulations, Brother Miao. Before Xiao Fan could finish, Miao Zhong waved his hand and said impatiently, I'm not afraid of you laughing at me. Not only did I fail to kill him, but Du Lei was also killed right under my nose. Huh! Hearing Miao Zhongyi's words, Xiao Fan was shocked. Of course, he knew what this meant. There was no need to mention Miao Zhongyi's strength. A peak divine king was only one step away from becoming a junior divine emperor. But the result? Longao actually killed Du Lei right under the nose of a peak divine king. Du Lei's corpse did not even remain. Could it be that Longao was hiding his strength? As if he could guess what Xiao Fan was thinking, Miao Zhongyi said fiercely, Longao has a divine beast that can devour warriors. It seems to be a peak divine king. While I was dealing with Longao, this beast took advantage of the situation. Otherwise, Miao Zhongyi was unhappy. Both the man and the beast were peak divine kings. Even if the man and the beast joined forces, he could easily kill them, let alone one-on-one. However, even if he was beaten to death, he would never have thought that Longao actually had a spatial divine weapon. It was a spatial divine weapon that even he could not lock down. If he did not see it with his own eyes, he would have found it hard to believe. Longao has a spatial divine weapon. However, I have already sealed the surrounding space. He should still be here. After hearing that, Xiao Fan immediately released his aura and instantly shrouded the entire courtyard. Xiao Fan was different from Miao Zhongyi. Xiao Fan's cultivation had already broken through to the junior divine emperor level and he had already mastered the space domain. Even if he used the space domain, he still could not lock down the spatial divine weapon in Longao's hand. What the hell is going on? It was his first time seeing such a heaven-defying spatial divine weapon. Even Xiao Fan was shocked. However, his heart was filled with greed. He could not wait to get his hands on the spatial divine weapon. Territorial Lord Xiao, how is it? I can't sense it. Miao Zhongyi knew that Xiao Fan would not lie to him. If that was the case, things would be really troublesome. The other party had such a heaven-defying spatial divine weapon. Not to mention him, even Xiao Fan could not lock down the spatial divine weapon. Doesn't that mean that even the master would not be able to lock down the spatial divine weapon? How could there be such a heaven-defying spatial divine weapon in the world? Brother Miao, are you sure that Longao is still here? In fact, Miao Zhongyi did not dare to say whether Longao was really here or not. It was just a guess. However, he could not give up now. If he let Longao escape, he would not know where to find him. The chaotic world had a total of 99 heavens domains. Not to mention the 99 heavens domains, even finding a person in one of the heavens domains was extremely difficult. Fortunately, this person was in Zonglong City. Otherwise, they would not be able to lock onto Longao. I'm very sure. Old bastard, fuck your ancestor. If you have the ability, then don't leave. Once I recover my strength, I'll definitely devour you. Just at this time, a voice rang out from within the courtyard. It was very arrogant. Could it be that this was the spiritual beast that swallowed Du Lei? To be able to swallow a Lord God in an instant, one could imagine how powerful this spiritual beast was. You dare to call me a beast? Ha ha ha, old man, I hope you will still say that later. Xiao He deliberately said that. He was not injured at all, so how could he recover his strength? With his current strength, it was impossible for him to swallow Miao Zhongyi. However, according to Longao's intention, he wanted Miao Zhongyi to be unable to estimate how strong Xiao He was. Sure enough. Hearing Xiao He's arrogant words, Miao Zhongyi was shocked. Could it be that he had underestimated the other party's strength? If that was the case, once the other party had the strength to swallow him, wouldn't it mean that he went for wool and came home shorn this time? Thinking of this, the more Miao Zhongyi thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. The other party had already set up a formation and seemed to be waiting for him. Should he stay in this place or leave immediately? If he chose to leave at this time, he would definitely be laughed at by others. Moreover, Xiao Fan was right beside him. Just now, he had vowed to lock onto Longao's position. It was really a bit difficult to stop halfway. Longao, and that beast, if you have the ability, come out and have a fair fight with me. What are you if not cowards hiding in the spatial artifact? Chapter 2987. Ha ha ha, old man, wait for me for 3 days. 3 days later, I will fulfill your wish. Blackie's arrogant voice came from the courtyard again. Miao Zhongyi was even more fearful of Blackie. Could it be that Blackie really had the strength to devour him? Not to mention Miao Zhongyi, even Xiao Fan was a little worried. If he did not hear it with his own ears, he would not dare to believe it. No wonder Longao was fearless. It turned out that he had such a heaven-defying spiritual beast by his side. A spiritual beast that could devour a divine king. It was obvious what it meant. In the next second, Longao and Blackie suddenly appeared in front of them. You really dare to come out? Looking at the man and the beast in front of him, Miao Zhongyi was shocked. He never thought that they would really come out. It was a great humiliation for him. Domain Lord Xiao, it seems like you are determined to be my enemy. Ignoring Miao Zhongyi, Longao just stared at Domain Lord Xiao, the beginner divine emperor. He did not want to fall out with the Domain Lord unless he had no other choice. The strength of a beginner divine emperor was still there. He was hesitating. Xiao Fan was helpless as well. Why did he return for no reason? On one side was the Sanskrit sound sect, on the other side was the Pill Hall. He definitely did not want to offend either side, especially the Pill Hall, which was a colossus in the chaotic world. It could even be compared to the Domain Lord Alliance. Longao, the grudge between you and the Sanskrit sound sect has nothing to do with my Domain Lord manner. I will not help the Sanskrit sound sect, nor will I help you. What happened today has nothing to do with my Domain Lord manner. In the end, Xiao Fan chose not to help either side. Although this would offend the Sanskrit sound sect, he had to give up something in this situation. Longao was not surprised at all. He had already guessed this possibility. On the other hand, Miao Zhongyi was very uncomfortable. However, he did not say anything. After all, Longao was backed by the Pill Hall. He believed that no matter who it was, they would make the same choice. Goodbye. Please. After Xiao Fan left, Xiao He stood up and shouted, "Old man, we didn't attack you just now because Xiao Fan is a junior divine emperor. Do you really think you can stop us?" Blackie was very arrogant, but it was intentional. Not to mention Little He, even Longao had an expression of "I'll eat you up." What was going on? Could it be that one man and one beast could really destroy him? Fear began to creep into his heart. If not a single one of them was left, he would probably be consigned to eternal damnation. Blackie, swallow him. Miao Zhongyi was most afraid of this sentence. Not long ago, it was because of Longao's words that Du Lei was devoured by this beast right under his nose. He didn't even have time to react. "I'd like to see it today." Before Miao Zhongyi could finish speaking, Longao and Little He had already attacked him from both sides. Their speed was as fast as 2 bolts of lightning. Little He was responsible for scaring them while Longao was looking for an opportunity to launch a sure-kill attack. No matter what. Miao Zhongyi was a peak godly king, so it was almost impossible for him to fight him head-on. As the saying went, it was a psychological battle. Of course, Miao Zhongyi could clearly sense that both man and beast were peak lords, so they were probably no match for him. However, the scene of this spiritual beast devouring Du Lei was still vivid in his mind. It would be a lie to say that he was not afraid. He did not take Longao seriously at all. The only thing that Miao Zhongyi was afraid of was this spiritual beast. It was precisely because of this. Miao Zhongyi focused most of his attacks on Little He, while Longao attacked much less. This gave Longao a great opportunity. Carelessness killed. This time, Longao was not only prepared to use 2 types of exotic fires in order to launch a sure-kill attack, but he even used the Smelting God Tower that he had just refined. The Smelting God Tower enveloped Miao Zhongyi directly. When he realized that something was wrong, it was clearly too late. Before he could even react, he was already enveloped by the Smelting God Tower. The 2 types of exotic fires entered the Smelting God Tower and attacked Miao Zhongyi crazily. If it were outside, even if Longao used 2 types of exotic fires, he might not be able to kill Miao Zhongyi. The most likely outcome would be failure. However, using 2 types of exotic fires in the Smelting God Tower was a different concept. The 2 types of exotic fires eroded Miao Zhongyi crazily. In just a few seconds, he was completely burned to ashes. Little He looked at the Smelting God Tower in his boss's hand and sighed. "Boss, your Smelting God Tower is really powerful. It can even burn a peak godly king to ashes." He nodded. In fact, he was not too sure about how powerful his Smelting God Tower was. Since he had refined the Smelting God Tower, this was his first time dealing with a peak godly king. Whether he could kill a peak godly king was still unknown. However, Longao found a problem. If his Smelting God Tower was combined with 2 types of exotic fires, its power would be heaven-defying. As long as the other party was careless, he could even kill a peak godly king. Miao Zhongyi was a living example. "Little He, now that we have killed Miao Zhongyi and Du Lei, if nothing goes wrong, the Sanskrit sound sect will know about this matter soon. Should we leave Zonglong City or continue to stay here and wait for the Sanskrit sound sect?" Little He had already devoured a peak godly king and 2 overgods' primordial spirit power. However, it seemed a little unrealistic if he wanted to rely on this power to advance to the godly king realm. Longao's intention was actually very simple. If they left now, even if the Sanskrit sound sect was the #1 sect in Zonglong Tian domain, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. It was almost impossible for them to find the 2 of them. However, if the 2 of them continued to stay, although it would be more dangerous, it would allow Little He to devour more power. How could Little He not understand his boss's intention? He smiled and said, "Boss, I will follow your lead. If you want to leave, I will leave. If you want to stay, I will stay. I will definitely not object. Patting little Hei's shoulder, Longao said with a smile, go into the chaotic Dantian and refine the power you just devoured. Let me think about whether to leave or stay. Longao did not make a decision immediately. He wanted to observe the situation before making a decision. Longao deliberately spread the news of Miao Zhongyi's death. The first person to receive the news would definitely be Xiao Fan. As the domain lord of Zonglong City, Xiao Fan did not believe it at all after receiving the news. However, after thinking about it, he understood. If the spiritual beast beside Miao Zhongyi could really devour godly king experts, then it would not be impossible for Longao to kill Miao Zhongyi. Chapter 2988. He had killed the Grand Elder and 2 protectors of the Sanskrit sound sect. The news had just spread and the entire Zonglong city was in an uproar. Everyone knew what the Sanskrit sound sect meant. The Sanskrit sound sect was the top sect in the Zonglong Tian territory. It was so powerful that even the domain chief's mansion was no match for it. It could be said that the Sanskrit sound sect was a giant in the Zonglong Tian territory. No one would provoke such a powerful enemy unless they were out of their mind or had a death wish. Who was it? Xiao Fan was the most shocked. He had never thought that Longao could really kill him. He pretended not to know. No matter what, Xiao Fan was killed in Zonglong City. As expected. The Sanskrit sound sect would not let it go. They had just received the news that the master of the Sanskrit sound sect, Yi Mo, had brought 20 divine kings to Zonglong City. Yi Mo was a middle-level divine emperor and his strength was far above Xiao Fan's. The Sanskrit sound sect was stronger than the domain chief's mansion and the biggest reason was that Yi Mo was stronger than Xiao Fan. According to the rumors, the person that the domain chief's alliance favored the most was not Xiao Fan but Yi Mo. However, Yi Mo was unwilling to be the so-called domain chief and founded the Sanskrit sound sect on his own. That was how Xiao Fan got the chance to become the domain chief of the Zonglong Tian territory. It was impossible to say that he did not have a knot in his heart. The Sanskrit sound sect was really angry this time. Since the establishment of the sect, such a thing had never happened. For the Sanskrit sound sect, it was not just a provocation but a slap in their face. As the overlord of the Zonglong Tian territory, it was a big joke that someone dared to provoke the Sanskrit sound sect. The domain chief's mansion. Master Yi, please forgive me for not coming out to meet you. Yi Mo's face was a little gloomy. Regardless of whether the matter had anything to do with the domain chief's mansion, it had happened in Zonglong City. He would not believe that it had nothing to do with the domain chief's mansion. Domain Chief Xiao, do you know about the death of the Sanskrit sound sect's Grand Elder and 2 protectors? I heard a little. I heard that he is still in Zonglong City. I don't know about that, but I have sealed the city. If he is still in the city. Xiao Fan had sealed Zonglong before Yi's arrival. But was this useful? He wanted to flare up, but he couldn't. Yi Mo suppressed the anger in his heart and said, I hope Territory Lord Xiao can help me this time. I will definitely thank you in the future. Of course. Xiao Fan was originally a two-faced and slick person. He didn't want to offend the Sanskrit sound sect or the Pill Hall. I heard that the person who killed the 3 elders was a peak over God. Impossible. As soon as Xiao Fan finished speaking, a God King elder behind Yi Mo immediately spoke up. It was a complete joke. A peak lord could kill the Grand Elder? This was the same logic as a sow climbing a tree. No one would believe it. Perhaps some people would have believed that a peak lord could kill 2 lord protectors. It was common knowledge. Just how great was the gap between a peak lord and a peak godly king? They were not on the same level at all. Yi Mo waved his hand and said, Territorial Lord Xiao, please continue. He ignored the God King martial artist who had just interrupted him. That is indeed the case. However, it is said that this person has a very powerful spiritual beast by his side that can devour divine king experts. As for whether it is true or not, no one knows. Devour divine king's spiritual beast? It was a complete joke. Even Yi Mo didn't believe it, let alone the others. Territorial Lord Xiao, may I know if you can activate the defensive formation? This Everyone in the Zonglongtian domain knew that a level 6 formation master was related to the previous territorial lord of Zonglong City. Hence, he spent a lot of effort to set up the 10,000 dragons slaughtering formation. Other than being a defensive formation, it was also a killing formation. However, Xiao Fan would definitely not activate it casually unless it was absolutely necessary. This was because every time it was activated, the formation would consume a lot of energy. Most importantly, this had nothing to do with him at all. It had nothing to do with Zonglong City. Did they think he was a fool to activate the formation for no reason? Master Yi, you should know that the 10,000 dragons slaughtering formation consumes a lot of energy every time it is activated. Moreover, if I activate it casually, I won't be able to answer to Zonglong City. He was furious. Suppressing his anger, Yimo said, Territorial Lord Xiao, although the Sanskrit sound sect and the Territorial Lord's manor do not have any dealings, they are both in the Zonglongtian domain. Is the Territorial Lord's manor not going to do anything? What a shameless Yimo. However, Xiao Fan smiled and said, Sect Master Yi may not know, but there are rumors everywhere that the person who killed the Great Elder is Longao from the Blackstone Heavenly region. Longao? Who is he? Yimo had been in seclusion all year round. He had never heard about the Blackstone domain. He looked at the people behind him. Immediately, someone came up and whispered to him. Yimo's face turned gloomy after hearing that. He had never thought that Longao had such a powerful background. He even had the backing of the Pill Palace. So what if he had the backing of the Pill Palace? Could he kill the Great Elder of his sect as he wished? He snorted coldly. No matter how powerful the Pill Palace is, they can't do whatever they want in the chaotic world. There is still the Territorial Lord's Alliance. Even if the Pill Palace comes, I will still kill him. Everyone knew that the master of the Sanskrit sound sect, Yimo, was highly valued by the Territorial Lord's Alliance. This was also the reason why Yimo was not afraid of the Pill Palace. After all, the Sanskrit sound sect was in the right. Even if the Pill Palace came, what could they do? Xiao Fan did not say anything. He thought that even if Yimo was not afraid of the Pill Palace, it did not mean that he was not afraid of the Pill Palace. The Territorial Lord's Alliance might go against the Pill Palace for Yimo, but they would not go against the Pill Palace for him. Just like the Blackstone Domain's Domain Lord's Manor and City Lord's Manor, the Territorial Lord's Alliance did not say anything when the Pill Palace destroyed them. How could Yimo not know what Xiao Fan was thinking? However, if Longao was really in the Zonglong City, they would have to rely on the formation in the city. Otherwise, it would be difficult to locate him. Territorial Lord Xiao, do you want me to ask the Territorial Lord's Alliance to come out? *CK Xiao Fan cursed in his heart. He had never thought that Yimo would be so shameless. He actually used the Territorial Lord's Alliance to suppress him. He could ignore Yimo and the Sanskrit sound sect, but he could not ignore the Territorial Lord's Alliance. Because he knew that the Territorial Lord's Alliance could remove him from the Territorial Lord's position at any time. Xiao Fan's expression changed again. He wished that he could tear Yimo into pieces. Territorial Lord Xiao, you should know that I was the one who gave you the Territorial Lord's position. Shouldn't you return the favor? Chapter 2989. Favor. It didn't matter if he didn't mention it. That was what Xiao Fan hated the most. Although what Yimo said was true, he was already the Territorial Lord. If this matter was mentioned again, it would be a matter of face. Yimo wouldn't have done that under normal circumstances, but now he was extremely angry. If he couldn't kill this person, the Sanskrit sound sect would be completely humiliated. He was furious. However, there was no other way. He definitely couldn't provoke Yimo. Okay, I'll do it now. Before activating the array, Xiao Fan first informed the entire Zonglong City. After all, he knew better than anyone what it meant to activate the array. An hour later, the 10,000 dragons slaughtering array had been fully activated. Without Xiao Fan's order, no one could leave Zonglong City. If they tried to leave, they would definitely be killed by the array. In fact, Yimo was also trying his luck. Under normal circumstances, since this person had killed the Great Elder, he would definitely leave Zonglong City. How could he continue to stay? Just as Yimo had guessed. After thinking about it, Longao decided to leave Zonglong City first because he didn't know what the Sanskrit sound sect had. There was really no need to take the risk. Fortunately, we came out in advance. I really didn't expect that Zonglong City would activate the 10,000 dragons slaughtering array. It seems that the Sanskrit sound sect is completely angry this time and put a lot of pressure on the territorial lord's mansion. With the 10,000 dragons slaughtering array activated, this person can't escape. Damn, are you stupid? This person killed the Great Elder and 2 guardians of the Sanskrit sound sect. Would he continue to stay in Zonglong City? If it were you, would you stay? Everyone suddenly realized. Indeed. With the strength of the Sanskrit sound sect, as long as this person wasn't a fool, he definitely wouldn't continue to stay in Zonglong City. Unless he had the strength of a divine emperor, he would definitely choose to leave. If that was the case, the Zonglong sky domain was boundless. Even if the Sanskrit sound sect wanted to find this person, it would be impossible. Longao had heard all kinds of discussions. Of course, he already knew that the Zonglong City had activated a protective array, a dragon slaughtering array. Fortunately, he left in time. Otherwise, if he was trapped in the array, he really didn't know whether he could succeed. Boss, are we going to kill them? Or choose to leave? Since we have nothing to do, let's take a look at the Sanskrit sect. Ha ha ha, all right. Hearing that they were going to the Sanskrit sound sect, Blackie was pleasantly surprised. Of course, he knew what his boss meant. The Sanskrit sect probably wouldn't have thought of luring the tiger away from the mountain even if they were beaten to death. The Sanskrit sound sect was the most powerful sect in the Zonglong Tian domain. It was far more powerful than the domain chief's manor. The present Sanskrit sound sect did not have a divine king powerhouse holding down the fort. What kind of concept was that? The 20 godly kings were all taken away by Yimo. As for the remaining godly kings, they all had their own people. In any case, none of them were in the Sanskrit sect. At this moment, the strongest warrior in the Sanskrit sound sect was only a peak martial master. Longao and Blackie appeared in the 9th heaven of the Sanskrit sound sect. Who is it? How dare you fly in the sky of the Sanskrit sound sect? If you don't come down, I'll kill you. Many disciples of the Sanskrit sound sect began to roar out furiously when they saw the man and beast stand there silently. However, they were afraid to go up because they could clearly sense that the man and beast were both peak overgods. Right at this moment, hundreds of overgods flew toward the sky of the Sanskrit sound sect. Flying in the sky of the Sanskrit sound sect was an act of provocation. If they did not kill the 2 of them, where would the Sanskrit sound sect's dignity go? Each of the hundreds of overgods was angrier than the last. They could not wait to tear the man and beast apart. But the outcome? Suddenly, Blackie's body began to expand. In just a few seconds, he had turned into a gigantic creature. Covering the entire sky, he began to devour everything. What is that? He's devouring the protectors. Given Blackie's strength, he could devour beginner-level godly kings, let alone overgods. Even peak overgods could be devoured easily without any hindrance. Blackie began to devour madly. He devoured everyone he saw. Be it beginner-level overgods, intermediate-level overgods, high-level overgods, or peak overgods, he devoured all of them without showing any mercy. Looking at how the gigantic spirit beast was devouring the protectors continuously, everyone from the Sanskrit sound sect was completely dumbfounded. Since when had they seen such a powerful spirit beast? Even peak overgods were devoured like beans. In just a few minutes, most of the hundreds of overgods were devoured. How would the remaining 20 or so overgods dare to continue looking for trouble? They wished that they could grow another pair of legs and run away immediately. But the outcome? Blackie laughed out maniacally. Instantly, all the remaining overgods were devoured cleanly. Hundreds of overgods could not even last for 10 minutes. What sort of a concept was that? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Up till this moment, no one could figure out why someone would dare to provoke the Sanskrit sound sect. In the Zonglong Heaven region, the Sanskrit sound sect was the strongest existence. Even the domain chief's manor would not dare to provoke them casually, let alone others. Boss, should we destroy the Sanskrit sound sect now? Blackie didn't dare to take action immediately. Once he destroyed the Sanskrit sound sect, he would be immortal with Yimo's group. He knew what the result would be. If it was only Yimo, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, Yimo had the Territory Ancestor Alliance behind him. The Pill Temple didn't dare to provoke him. It was imaginable how intimidating the Territory Lord Alliance was. How could Longao not understand Blackie's intention? Since things had come to this point, no matter what, he had to destroy the Sanskrit sound sect. Without hesitation, he said, "Kill." That was what he wanted. Blackie did not care about anything else. He started his massacre immediately. Anyway, devouring one was devouring, and devouring 10,000 was the same. As Blackie continued to devour, the energy in his body became more and more. This time, the devouring would be of great help to him in refining the inheritance. He wondered if he could use this opportunity to break through to the early God King realm. Blackie knew that if his cultivation base could break through to the God King realm, he would be able to devour mid-level God Kings. As for whether he could devour high-level God Kings or not, no one knew. Longao did not take action. Blackie needed this power, but he did not. What he needed to do was to capture all the people who had run away. In just one day, the number one sect in the Zonglong Heaven region, the Sanskrit sound sect, was completely destroyed. P.S. Don't scold me. I stayed up late last night, so little Nine took a nap in the afternoon. This is the 7th chapter. The next 3 chapters will be delivered soon. Even if I stay up late tonight, I will finish the last 10 chapters. Chapter 2990. Zonglong City. In the main hall of the Domain Master's mansion. With the activation of the 10,000 dragons slaughtering formation, the entire Zonglong City was dead because no one knew if the Domain Master's mansion and Sanskrit sound sect would be implicated or even kill the innocent. Master, it seems that this person has already left Zonglong City. Although Yimo was furious, he knew very well that as long as he was not a fool, he would have chosen to leave. He felt helpless. Master Yi, Longao has already left Zonglong City. Why don't we remove the formation? Okay. Just as Yimo was about to get up and leave, a divine king hurried over. A god king quickly walked in from outside. It was an elder of the Sanskrit sound sect. His face was filled with urgency and even fear. What's wrong? Master, something bad has happened. Longao and his spiritual beast have destroyed Sanskrit sound sect and swallowed everyone. Yimo stood up. His face was filled with anger and murderous intent. Not only Yimo, but even Xiaofan was shocked. Longao had destroyed Sanskrit sound sect. Was that true? Are you kidding? Longao is only a peak lord. Even if his spiritual beast is powerful, it's impossible for him to destroy Sanskrit sound sect. Of course, Yimo did not believe it. With the foundation and strength of his sect, how could a person and a beast destroy the sect? Only a fool would believe that. However, this person was trembling with fear as he said, "Sovereign, Longao has indeed destroyed the sect." Yimo suppressed the murderous intent in his heart. Even so, Yimo dashed out. The 20 divine kings followed behind him in fear. Ever since Sanskrit sound sect was founded tens of thousands of years ago, they had never encountered such a thing. How could the sect be destroyed? Looking at the people who had left quickly, the first thing Xiaofan did was to remove the formation as quickly as possible. Until then, Xiaofan still could not believe that Longao would destroy Sanskrit sound sect. It was a shameless move to lure the tiger away from the mountain. However, it made sense after thinking about it. Yimo had brought 20 godly kings with him. The remaining godly kings had all left the sect. Since Longao could kill a peak godly king, then destroying the Sanskrit sound sect wouldn't be difficult. All of a sudden, Xiaofan smiled. If Yimo and the others were all killed by Longao, then it would be a very satisfying thing. After being suppressed by Yimo for tens of thousands of years, the anger and killing intent in his heart could be imagined. Sanskrit sect. Now, the Sanskrit sound sect was in ruins. Tens of thousands of people had been devoured. Countless people were peeking around, but no one dared to get close. Standing quietly on top of the ruins, Yimo's face was expressionless. The 20 God King elders did not dare to say anything. It was exceptionally quiet. What kind of person do you think Longao is? How dare you destroy the Sanskrit sect? You may not know this, but according to the rumors, Longao seems to be from the Blackstone Heavenly region. He's the demonized warrior who killed Nangong Chen. Demonized? Everyone gasped. Many of them were familiar with Nangong Chen's identity. He was the son of the Blackstone Heavenly region's domain lord. This person dared to kill Nangong Chen. No wonder he dared to provoke the Sanskrit sect. However, what they could not figure out was that even if this person was crazy, he should know his place. The Sanskrit sound sect was not something the Blackstone Heavenly region could compare with. Daring to provoke the Sanskrit sound sect, they all knew what it meant. I wonder what Master Yi will do. What else can you do? If your sect is destroyed, what will you do? On top of the ruins, Yimo suddenly looked up to the sky and roared. His roar was filled with endless killing intent. Longao, even if you run to the end of the world, I'll tear you into pieces. Tear your ass. Who do you think you are? How dare you tear my boss into pieces? F***ck, if it wasn't because my boss didn't allow me to do it, I would have swallowed you. Just as Yimo was roaring crazily, a mocking voice came from the void. It sounded very arrogant, as if he did not put Yimo in his eyes at all. Yimo and the others were stunned. Who do you think you are? Come out if you dare. The space domain was released. Not only Yimo, but the other 20 God King elders also began to release their space domain to lock down the surroundings. However, there was no progress at all. What was going on? Yimo obviously knew that Longao had a heaven-defying space divine tool. Even Xiao Fan could not lock down the space domain. It was easy to imagine how heaven-defying the space domain Longao's space divine tool was. Longao, come out if you dare. Don't be a coward. Who do you think you are? Yimo, you old bastard, did not say anything. Why are you standing out? Piss off, or I'll swallow you. What an arrogant tone. As an elder of the Sanskrit sound sect, Zhong Fuhai had never been humiliated like this. He immediately roared furiously, you coward. Come out and fight me if you dare. What are you hiding in the space domain for? Ha ha ha, that's enough, old man. A fair fight. If I go out, it won't be a fair fight. It will be you bullying me with numbers. Do you think I'm a fool? Or are you a fool? As long as you dare to come out, I can guarantee with my dignity that I will fight you fairly. The others will not interfere. How about it? Your dignity. What dignity do you have? Your Sanskrit sound sect is a bunch of shameless people. What dignity do you have to talk to me about? But since you're here, I'll fulfill your wish and fulfill your wish this time. Zhong Fuhai had just broken through to the Divine King realm. Even if Xiao He had not become a Divine King yet, it would not be difficult for him to swallow Zhong Fuhai. Then, Longao and Xiao He's figures suddenly appeared, standing proudly in the void. Seeing the man and beast appear, everyone was shocked. However, most of them were impressed. He dared to come out after destroying the Sanskrit sound sect. Just this courage alone was unmatched. You are Longao? You are the master of the Sanskrit sound sect, Yimo? Zhong Fuhai immediately bowed respectfully to Yimo. Master, please fulfill my wish. Yimo obviously did not want to. However, things had already come to this. If he refused, wouldn't he become a joke? Even if he did not want to, Yimo still nodded and said, go. Thank you, master. Boss, watch me swallow this old bastard for you. Longao was naturally not worried about Xiao He's swallow the heavens ability. As long as the opponent was not a mid-level divine king or above, Xiao He could completely swallow him. Be careful. Once you swallow this person, immediately return to my chaotic Dantian. Longao and Xiao He's relationship did not need to be explained. With just a thought, Xiao He could instantly return to his chaotic Dantian. Thus, Longao was not very worried. P.S. Chapter 8 sent here. Chapter 2991. A level 4 spiritual beast dares to be so arrogant. I want to see what you're capable of. Zhong Fuhai didn't put Blackie in his eyes. In his opinion, Blackie was just a level 4 spiritual beast. So what if it was a peak level 4 spiritual beast? Overgods and divine kings weren't on the same level. The gap between the two was too big. Old man, I'll let you know the power of the devouring heaven divine ability. He didn't want to continue talking nonsense. Blackie's figure suddenly disappeared. In order to end the battle quickly, he began to devour Blackie. Zhong Fuhai was still a primary divine king. Even if Blackie was powerful, he couldn't devour him in seconds. Countless people were watching the battle. It was still unknown whether they would win or lose this battle. Be careful. Someone beside Yi Mo immediately exclaimed. Ha ha ha, it's too late for me to act. Ah. Zhong Fuhai was completely terrified. He didn't expect Blackie's divine ability to be so powerful. He finally knew why Blackie could devour everyone in the Sanskrit sound sect. However, it was too late for regrets. Blackie wouldn't give him any chance to regret. Blackie couldn't devour Zhong Fuhai in seconds, but he could devour Zhong Fuhai in 3 moves. This was the power of the chaotic heaven-devouring beast. Crack. A primary divine king was devoured just like that. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they wouldn't believe it. Blackie's powerful strength had completely shocked everyone around, including Yi Mo. I'll tear you apart alive. All the other divine kings returned. Now, the number of divine kings in the Sanskrit sound sect had reached a terrifying 40. Seeing Zhong Fuhai being devoured in front of their eyes, they would be lying if they said they weren't angry. Yi Mo waved his hand and suppressed the anger in his heart. He said coldly, "You do have some skills. Longao, no matter what your motive is, you destroyed my Sanskrit sound sect. You're unforgivable. Even if you have the pill hall behind you, you still have to die." Longao didn't care at all. If he was afraid, he wouldn't have done it. Yi Mo, Miaozhongyi's death was his own fault. I destroyed the Sanskrit sound sect to teach you a lesson. If you still want to fight, I'll accompany you anytime. In the next second, the figures of Longao and Blackie instantly disappeared and entered the chaotic Dantian. Yi Mo didn't stop him because he was using all his strength to lock onto the other party. However, he helplessly discovered that even his aura couldn't lock onto the other party. The spatial artifact in his opponent's hand was truly heaven-defying. Greed. Yi Mo couldn't wait to get his hands on the spatial artifact. Over 40 god kings immediately unleashed their spatial powers, stacking up the surrounding space. This way, even if the enemy had a spatial artifact, he wouldn't be able to leave this place. Inside the chaotic Dantian. Boss, we can't go on like this. We can only deal with early-stage god kings. Even if we work together, we won't be a match for mid-stage god kings. How could Longao not know the meaning of Blackie's words? Blackie, our goal is not to kill Yi Mo and the others. I want to make a name for myself. Longao had already thought it through. Just sitting and waiting for death was not going to work. The best way was to use his strength to tell everyone that even if they wanted to provoke the killing god, they should not provoke him. In the end, Longao still wanted to pave the way for his family. Blackie nodded excitedly. It was fine as long as he could fight. It seemed like he was born to fight. The news of the mysterious spiritual beast devouring the God King elders of the Sanskrit sound sect had already spread throughout the entire Zhonglongtian region. This person was truly a little too crazy, as if he was targeting the Sanskrit sound sect. Longao's identity had already been revealed. Could this person be a fighter? Not only did he offend the domain lord manor of the Blackstone region, but he also offended the Sanskrit sound sect of the Zhonglongtian region. If it was someone else, they would avoid him. Blackstone region. Dragon City, City Lord Manor. After receiving the news, Han Feng was completely convinced. He said helplessly, "This Longao really knows how to find trouble. How long has it been since he left Dragon City? He actually destroyed the Sanskrit sound sect and devoured 2 god kings." He felt a headache because everyone knew that Longao's backer was the Pill Hall. The domain lord manor of the Blackstone region was one thing, but the Sanskrit sound sect was not something the Blackstone region could compare with. The Sanskrit Sound sect was backed by the Domain Lord Alliance. Big brother, you must help brother Long this time. Otherwise, he'll be in big trouble. Han Yin was also helpless. However, no matter what Longao did, she would support him unconditionally. Han Feng shook his head helplessly and said, "You know better than me what the Sanskrit Sound sect means. There's an elder in the Domain Lord Alliance who is Yimo's family member. Even the Pill Hall would not dare to provoke the Domain Lord Alliance." How could Han Yin not know what her big brother was talking about? Big brother. All right. Although Longao is reckless and crazy, I like his character. If it's someone else, it's impossible for him to do such a thing. Han Feng admired Longao in his heart. However, this matter was indeed troublesome. He needed to think about it at length. Little Yin, other than Longao's matter, I came to find you for another matter. The two of us can't stay here forever, so, before Han Feng could finish, Han Yin said, "I won't leave the Dragon City." Han Feng understood his sister's character very well. She would not change her mind once she decided on something. Especially when she liked Longao. This matter was even more troublesome. After a deep sigh, Han Feng said helplessly, "Since it's like that, I'll stay here with you for a while. I'll tell father about this matter later." Zonglong Heaven Region. The Sanskrit Sound sect was already in ruins. This time, Longao was ruthless enough to uproot the Sanskrit Sound sect. Apart from the sect master, Yimo, there were only 40-odd God King elders. As for the disciples, there were less than 100. For such a sect, let alone being ranked first, it was unknown whether they could even enter the top 10. However, as long as Yimo and the 40 God Kings were alive, the Sanskrit Sound sect would not be truly destroyed. As long as they recovered their lost foundation, the Sanskrit Sound sect would become the greatest sect in the Zonglong Heaven region in the future. However, Yimo and the others were extremely depressed right now. Although they had locked the space around them, they were still unable to lock onto the opponent's spatial divine tool. If it was before, they would definitely be able to lock onto it. However, the situation was completely different now. Longao's primal chaos palace had already fused with his Dantian. Let alone Yimo, even a peak God King might not be able to lock onto it. P.S. Little Nine asks everyone to stop cursing. Little Nine hasn't rested. It's just that writing at night takes longer. It's already past 2. Hurry up and finish the last chapter. Chapter 2992. Both parties were still in a stalemate. In the chaotic Dantian, Longao stood up suddenly and said with a smile, "Blackie, time to work." "Boss, what are we doing?" Blackie was curious as he did not know what his boss was going to do. There are 42 God Kings outside and 12 of them are beginner God Kings. What we need to do is to defeat them one by one and get rid of them. Hearing his boss's words, Blackie's face lit up. He loved to fight. If he could devour 12 beginner God Kings, he would be able to refine the inheritance in his body and break through to the peak overgod realm and become a God King. He was excited. The moon was high and the sky was dark. The moment Longao and Blackie left the chaotic Dantian, they went around the lock-on as fast as they could. It was impossible for Yimo to lock onto them all the time. As for the 40 overgod elders, they were split into a few groups and took turns to lock onto them. Longao and Blackie had already discussed that once they left the chaotic Dantian, they would devour beginner God Kings as fast as they could. Crack. Without anyone noticing. With Blackie's heaven-devouring mystique and strength, he could even devour beginner God Kings in seconds if he were to launch a sneak attack. In just an instant, a beginner divine king was forcefully swallowed just like that. Before anyone could even react, the man and the beast that had just attacked suddenly disappeared from where they were once again. What's going on? Master, Elder Wang has been devoured. Another elder had been devoured, especially right under his nose. Yimo forcefully suppressed the anger in his heart, and he almost couldn't breathe. Ever since he broke through to the God Emperor realm, he had never encountered something like this. To him, this was a great humiliation. Yimo turned around and left. His voice came from afar. Continue to lock on to him. Don't let him escape. At the bottom of the ruins, in a huge cave, Yimo looked at the seal before him and said, As long as you help me once, you can regain your freedom. How about that? In the seal. A furious roar came. If not for your father's tricks back then, would he have sealed me? Yimo scoffed and said nonchalantly, Heavenly Phantom Wolf, do you think my father is still as strong as he was back then? There was silence. Your father broke through? What do you think? The Heavenly Phantom Wolf's arrogance suddenly disappeared without a trace. It knew very well that with the other party's breakthrough, it was almost impossible for it to take revenge. What do you want me to do? The Heavenly Phantom Wolf was a level 6 divine beast. Furthermore, it was one of the strongest level 6 divine beasts. Yimo knew very well that it was impossible for him to lock onto the other party's position by himself. With the help of the Heavenly Phantom Wolf, it would be a whole different story. There's someone who isn't that strong, but he has a spatial artifact. I can't lock onto him, so I need your help. Sure. The seal was undone in an instant, and a figure quickly came out of the seal. It was a 2-meter-tall giant black wolf. It was the level 6 divine beast, Heavenly Phantom Wolf. At the top of the ruins, a man and a wolf suddenly appeared. The Heavenly Phantom Wolf's powerful aura instantly covered the sky, enveloping the surrounding space. 6th level divine beast. Sensing the powerful aura released by the Heavenly Phantom Wolf, everyone's heart trembled. Everyone knew what a level 6 divine beast meant. It was a super existence that was equivalent to a divine emperor. Since when did the sect have such a level 6 divine beast expert? There were still many people around who had not left. Many of them wanted to see what the final outcome would be. How is it? Yimo was very anxious. He did not know if the Heavenly Phantom Wolf could lock onto the other party's position. If it still could not lock onto the other party's position, then there was only one final solution, which was to ask his father for help. However, if he really did that, where would he put his face? He really did not have the face to ask his father for help to deal with a mere peek-over god. I can't lock onto it. However, I can sense that there's a place where the spatial energy is a little strange. If I'm not mistaken. The Heavenly Phantom Wolf didn't continue speaking, but its meaning was very clear. Yimo was no fool. Of course, he knew what the Heavenly Phantom Wolf meant. He took a step forward and disappeared from where he was with the Heavenly Phantom Wolf. In the next second, they had arrived at the strange place. Heavenly Phantom Wolf, attack. Without waiting for Yimo to say anything, the Heavenly Phantom Wolf had already attacked. The power released from its body began to disturb the surrounding space with a strange fluctuation. Chaotic Dantian. Longao suddenly felt that his Dantian seemed to be locked onto. He was shocked. He was very confident in his chaotic Dantian, especially after the Chaos Palace had merged with his Dantian. Not to mention a beginner Divine Emperor, even a peak Divine Emperor might not be able to lock onto his position. Since that was the case, what was going on? Why had his Dantian been locked down by someone for no reason? This aura was very strange, and it was even more sinister. Boss, what's going on? Xiao Hei saw that his boss's expression was not right and immediately asked. Our position has been locked onto by someone. So that was it. Xiao Hei was not worried at all. He said with a smile, Boss, don't tease me. Your Dantian has already merged with the Chaos Palace. Even if the other party has locked onto you, what can they do? Xiao Hei, there's something you don't know. Since this person can lock onto my position, he must be extraordinary. My chaotic Dantian has just merged with my Dantian. I don't know what will happen. So, we have to take the initiative. Longao was very afraid of someone who could lock onto his position. He did not continue to stay in his chaotic Dantian. In the next second, his figure appeared outside the Chaos Palace. Level 6 Divine Beast. Longao was shocked when he sensed that the Divine Beast beside Yimo was a Level 6 Divine Beast. A Level 6 Divine Beast was equivalent to a Divine Emperor. Since the other party could lock onto his chaotic Dantian, it was obvious what this Level 6 Divine Beast meant. You finally showed up. Yimo sighed when he saw Longao being forced out. The Heavenly Phantom Wolf's strength was needless to say. If his father had not played some tricks, he would not have been able to seal the Heavenly Phantom Wolf for so many years. But now, There was no need to be afraid. His father had successfully broken through his cultivation. As long as the heavenly phantom wolf was not stupid, it would not cause trouble for his father. "You're the one who locked onto my position?" The heavenly phantom wolf did not care about the other party at all. It smiled and said, "Kill yourself and I can leave your corpse intact. P.S. All 10 chapters have been delivered. It's past 3. Xiao Ju is going to rest. Good night everyone." Chapter 2993. Not to mention the heavenly phantom wolf, even Yi Mo did not place Longao in his eyes. A mere peak lord was no different from an ant. If it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid of the spatial artifact in this person's hands, Yi Mo wouldn't have released the seal and released the heavenly phantom wolf. "Ha ha ha, you?" Looking at the arrogant young man, the heavenly phantom wolf seemed a little surprised. What an arrogant person. "Heavenly phantom wolf, leave this to me. You can leave first." However, the heavenly phantom wolf shook its head and said, "I'll help you deal with this person. As for his items, I don't want that spatial artifact. Leave everything else to me." Since things had come to this, Yi Mo knew that he had to agree. "Please." As soon as Yi Mo finished speaking, the heavenly phantom wolf's figure had already rushed out. In terms of speed, the heavenly phantom wolf was much faster than the other divine emperors. "You dare to go against boss? I'll swallow you." Seeing that the heavenly phantom wolf wanted to kill its boss, Blackie was completely enraged. Regardless of whether the other party was a so-called level 6 divine beast or not, he directly used the heaven-devouring divine ability to forcefully devour the heavenly phantom wolf. "Blackie, you can't." Longao was startled when he saw Little Hay trying to swallow it. He immediately stopped Little Hay. But it was too late. Boom. With a loud sound, Xiao Hei's body flew back. It was obvious that it had been devoured by the heavenly phantom wolf. The difference in strength between the two was too great. How could it forcefully devour the heavenly phantom wolf? "You are a heaven-devouring beast." The heavenly phantom wolf did not continue attacking. Instead, it looked at the spirit beast in front of it in horror, as if it had encountered something inexplicable. Shock and disbelief were written all over its face. Martial artists might not know what a heaven-devouring beast meant, but as a rank 6 spiritual beast, how could the heavenly phantom wolf not know what a heaven-devouring beast meant? Heaven-devouring beast. Heavenly phantom wolf, what is a heaven-devouring beast? Yi Mo's intuition told him that the spirit beast by Longao's side was definitely not simple. Thinking about it, he felt relieved. This spirit beast was able to devour over 10,000 people, and it had even devoured the first elder. Just by thinking about it, one could imagine how powerful it was. Most importantly, this spiritual beast was only in the 4th rank. It was hard to imagine how terrifying its strength would be if it broke through the 5th rank, or even the 6th rank. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. All of a sudden, the heavenly phantom wolf suddenly raised its head and laughed maniacally. Could it be that his luck had come? The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. Yi Mo's heart skipped a beat when he saw the heavenly phantom wolf laughing maniacally. Before Yi Mo could say anything, the heavenly phantom wolf spoke again. "Yi Mo, I don't want anything. I only want this heaven-devouring beast. Moreover, as long as you fulfill my wish, we will be friends in the future." Huh. Hearing the heavenly phantom wolf's words, not only did Yi Mo not feel excited in the slightest, but he instead fell into deep thought. The heavenly phantom wolf was willing to give up everything else but this spirit beast. Just thinking about it made one realize what it meant. "You repulsive heavenly wolf, you actually dare to have designs on me? I'd like to see what you're going to do today." Longao didn't say anything. He never thought that the other party would recognize Blackie's identity at a glance. Kill. He had to kill the heavenly phantom wolf. Xiao Hei's identity could not be leaked. Otherwise, he could imagine the consequences. Blackie's background was not simple. "What? You don't want to?" Seeing that Yi Mo didn't say anything, the heavenly phantom wolf's face instantly turned gloomy. It finally encountered a heaven-devouring beast. Not to mention Yi Mo, even if Yi Mo's father came, he would fight with his life on the line. Please. Even if he was extremely unwilling, Mo could only agree. After all, once the heavenly phantom wolf got angry, he would probably go for wool and come home shorn. Ha ha ha, God is helping me. God is really helping me. The heavenly phantom wolf suppressed the excitement in its heart because it knew very well that as long as it could successfully devour the heaven-devouring beast, it could definitely advance to the top of the divine beasts. What a retard. Of course, Longao knew that with his and Blackie's strength, they were no match for the other party. However, if he wanted to leave, the other party wouldn't be able to stop him. In the next second, Blackie's figure instantly disappeared, while Longao turned around and took a step forward. His figure instantly disappeared without a trace. Want to leave? Since things had already come to this, how could the heavenly phantom wolf choose to give up so easily? It immediately chased after him. Of course, Mo wouldn't hold back either. They had already agreed that the heaven-devouring beast belonged to the heavenly phantom wolf. As for the other things on Longao, they would all belong to him. The remaining 41 god kings all stayed behind. After the previous lesson, the Sanskrit sound sect was terrified. Now that they thought about it, it was still vivid in their minds. If the other party lured them away again, the Sanskrit sound sect would really have no face to continue staying in the Zonglong sky region. Heavenly Phantom Wolf, since you treat me as a friend, please tell me where the heaven-devouring beast came from. Mo was eager to know where the heaven-devouring beast came from. However, there was nothing he could do if the heavenly phantom wolf refused to tell him. As expected, the heavenly phantom wolf shook its head and said, Mo, I've already said that I only need the heaven-devouring beast. Everything else is yours. I don't even want the spatial god artifact. Do you still want the heaven-devouring beast? The heavenly phantom wolf really did not want Mo to take action. No matter what, Mo's strength was there for all to see. Once he took action, it really would be troublesome. The man and the beast both had their own plans. Since you've already said that, of course, I won't take it from you. Let's work together and kill this person. Then, the heaven-devouring beast will belong to you. All right. The man and the beast reached an agreement. They pushed their speed to the limit as they chased after Longao with all their might. However, gradually, the two of them discovered in shock that although the other party was only a peak over God, he was extremely fast. Even when they chased after him with all their might, they were unable to catch up to him. What did this mean? If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would have found it hard to believe that a mere peak over God could move so terrifyingly fast. However, the heavenly phantom wolf was not slow either. The difference between the two of them grew smaller and smaller. If this continued, the heavenly phantom wolf would probably catch up to Longao in a few dozen minutes at most. Longao became more and more stern. If this continued, it would indeed be very dangerous for him. As for entering his chaotic dantian, it was quite risky because he had no idea whether the heavenly phantom wolf could destroy his chaotic dantian or not. Even if it was dangerous, he was unwilling to take the risk. What should he do? Chapter 2994. Mo could not figure it out. Although Longao was only a peak lord, he was so fast that even Mo and the heavenly phantom wolf could not catch up with him. If that was the case, even if Mo was a peak lord, no one would be able to do anything to him. Mo could not figure out how he could be so fast. Mo, according to my guess, the reason why he is so fast is that he has used his life essence. He won't be able to hold on for long. That's good. Just like what the heavenly phantom wolf said, Longao was fast but he was only a peak lord. He could not be faster than the man and the beast. In order to shake them off completely, Longao could only burn his life essence to increase his speed. Although he could increase his speed in a short period of time, it was very harmful to him. However, there was nothing he could do about it. A level 6 divine beast and a middle-level divine emperor. When the two of them joined forces, he and Xiao Hei were definitely no match for them. Once they were caught, the consequences would be obvious. Even so, Longao still could not shake off the heavenly phantom wolf completely. After all, the heavenly phantom wolf was just too fast. Its speed was comparable to a peak god emperor's or even beyond that. Broken Soul Cliff. One of the forbidden places in Zonglong Heaven Domain. No one, not even a god emperor, would dare to step into Broken Soul Cliff casually under normal circumstances. Unknowingly, Longao had already arrived at Broken Soul Cliff. Without even thinking, he was ready to step into Broken Soul Cliff. However, the result? Heavenly Phantom Wolf and Yi Mo arrived together. They did not show any mercy and slapped him directly. The difference between a peak lord and a god emperor was just too great. They were not on the same level at all. Poof! Longao spat out a mouthful of blood. He was hit by the two god emperors. His body flew backward like a kite with a broken string. No one knew if he was dead or alive. Seeing that the Heavenly Phantom Wolf was about to enter Broken Soul Cliff, Yi Mo quickly stopped him. What's wrong? Broken Soul Cliff is one of the forbidden places in Zonglong Heaven Domain. It is also the place where martial artists die. If you enter it, the chances of you coming out alive are slim. You have to think it through. I don't want to lose a friend like you. How could the Heavenly Phantom Wolf not know what Yi Mo was thinking? If it had been anything else, it would have been fine. However, the heaven-devouring beast was the only one he could not let go of. Heavenly Phantom Wolf, I still want to know the origin of the heaven-devouring beast. If it had been a moment ago, the Heavenly Phantom Wolf wouldn't have said a word. However, the situation was different now. Heaven-devouring beast. Its full name should be Primordial Heaven-devouring beast. There is only one in the entire primal chaos realm. Ah! Feeling somewhat shocked, Yi Mo did not say anything. However, he knew very well what it meant that there was only one primal chaos heaven-devouring beast. If the heaven-devouring beast was at its peak, not to mention you and me, even your father would be trash before it. He became more and more shocked. Yi Mo was well aware of his father's current strength. To think that he was not even an ant in front of the heaven-devouring beast. It was hard to imagine just how monstrous the heaven-devouring beast was at its peak. You want to devour him? Yi Mo was no fool. Of course, he knew what the Heavenly Phantom Wolf meant. As expected. The Heavenly Phantom Wolf nodded and said, "Not only me, I believe that no matter which divine beast devours the heaven-devouring beast, they will inherit his inheritance and reach his peak state in the future. You still want to enter?" The Heavenly Phantom Wolf nodded and did not say anything more. Even though it knew that there was only a slim chance of survival, it still rushed in order to devour the heaven-devouring beast. In the blink of an eye, it had disappeared without a trace. Yi Mo gritted his teeth and rushed towards the Breaking Soul Cliff. Since divine beasts could devour the heaven-devouring beast, then he might be able to devour it as well. If he could borrow the power of the heaven-devouring beast to increase his cultivation, then it would be worth the risk. Inside the Breaking Soul Cliff, Longao was attacked by two godly emperors at the same time. Even if he had an immortal body, he was in a bad situation. Even so, Longao endured the waves of weakness coming from his body, gritted his teeth and ran away quickly. The chi in the Breaking Soul Cliff was very strange. It began to devour Longao's blood and primordial spirit. It was impossible for it to devour his primordial spirit. The power of the Breaking Soul Cliff could not erode his primordial spirit at all. Plop! Longao's body fell down. The chaotic dantian in his body sealed itself so that Little Black could not come out. Longao did not know what happened when he fainted. Even if he was attacked by two divine emperors at the same time, he would not be in such a state. Especially after entering the Breaking Soul Cliff, he could not even hold on for a few minutes before fainting. Right at this moment, the mysterious power that had already invaded Longao's body was directly expelled. The surrounding strange power began to form a cocoon around Longao's body, a huge black cocoon. After a short while, the Heavenly Phantom Wolf and Yi Mo had already arrived at this place. Looking at the huge cocoon in front of them, the man and the beast were very shocked. They did not know what had happened. Why would Longao be enveloped by the strange power all around him? What should we do? Attack! The Heavenly Phantom Wolf could not wait any longer. The two divine emperors began to attack the cocoon crazily. However, they were still wary of the strange power that was eroding their primordial spirit and blood. No wonder the Breaking Soul Cliff was a forbidden area. If an ordinary warrior or even a martial king stepped into it, the result would be obvious. The attacks of the two god kings were useless. The huge black cocoon didn't even budge. Both the heavenly phantom wolf and Yi Mo were shocked. It seemed that they had no other choice but to defend the cocoon to the death. Inside the huge cocoon, Longao's mind began to circulate the 9-revolution chaos formula. If he could continue to break through, then it would be the so-called 7th revolution. What kind of concept was that? The first 6 revolutions of the 9-revolution chaos formula were the first revolution not entering the underworld, the second revolution space teleportation, and the third revolution reincarnation clone. The fourth revolution reincarnation heavenly eye, the fifth revolution shattering the starry sky, and the sixth revolution controlling the starry sky. All along, Longao had been looking forward to breaking through the 7th revolution of the 9-revolution chaos formula. He wanted to know what kind of divine powers he would get. After all, the divine powers of the first 6 revolutions were not there yet. No matter how hard he tried, Longao had not been able to break through. However, he did not expect that the 9-revolution chaos formula that had not broken through for a long time would be loosened at this moment. It might even break through now. Chapter 2995. There was a loud boom. Within Longao's essence spirit, there was a loud boom. The 9 revolutions chaos mantra that had been stuck at the 7th revolution had finally broken through. Even though Longao was already unconscious, he was still clear about the situation. His essence spirit could feel the breakthrough of the 9 revolutions chaos mantra. It was just for an instant. All of the information regarding the 7th revolution of the 9 revolutions chaos mantra gushed into his mind. The birth of chaos, the indestructible great Tao, the reproduction of chaos, the 9 revolutions chaos mantra. At this moment, Longao finally understood that the first 6 revolutions of the 9 revolutions chaos mantra were actually paving the way for the next 3 revolutions. Only by breaking through to the 7th revolution could one comprehend the great Tao. With this, Longao could clearly sense how difficult it was to break through to the next 3 revolutions. Let's not talk about the 8th and 9th revolutions first. Just the fact that he had just broken through to the 7th revolution was not something that could be done overnight. In fact, whether or not he could even reach the limits was still an unknown. Just as expected. It was just as Longao had guessed. With the breakthrough of the 7th revolution of the 9 revolutions chaos mantra, he had obtained a mystic skill as well. But the outcome, not only did he obtain a mystic skill, he obtained a total of 4 mystic skills. If it were the same as before, it would be great to obtain a mystic skill after breaking through. But right now, the situation was completely different. The 4 mystic skills had to be comprehended one by one. The 7th revolution of chaos gave birth to a total of 4 mystic skills. In ascending order, they were the first mystic skill, God's punishment, the second mystic skill, path destruction, the third mystic skill, forbidden realm, and the fourth mystic skill, reincarnation. Each mystic skill had a total of 9 states. Only by comprehending all of them to their limits could one continue to comprehend. In other words, after comprehending the God's punishment mystic skill, if one wanted to continue to comprehend the second mystic skill, path destruction, one would have to reach the pinnacle of the 9 stages of God's punishment. The pinnacle was instantaneous. Only then could one continue to comprehend. The 4 mystic skills had a total of 36 states. He had thought that his cultivation state would skyrocket after breaking through to the 7th revolution. To think that he would still be at the peak of Master God. Seemed like if he wanted to break through to the martial king state, he would have to master the power of space. But thankfully, with the breakthrough of the 7th revolution of the 9 revolutions chaos mantra, he had already comprehended the second stage God's punishment. This mystic skill was extremely powerful, and did not seem to be affected by the power of space. What was this concept? In other words, just by comprehending the second level of divine punishment, he was already able to kill a primary god king. It was hard to imagine what would happen if he could comprehend the 9th level of divine punishment. Especially when he could comprehend the 9th level of divine punishment, wouldn't he be able to kill a god emperor? However, whether or not he could kill a divine emperor after comprehending the pinnacle of 9 nines to 1 was still unknown. However, he would definitely be able to kill a peak divine king in an instant. There was no doubt about that. He gradually woke up. Looking at the huge black cocoon that enveloped him, Longao could clearly sense two powerful auras outside the cocoon. Without a doubt. One was Yi Mo, and the other was definitely the heavenly phantom wolf. He felt helpless. Longao knew that even though he had successfully broken through to the 7th revolution of the 9-revolution chaos formula, he was still no match for the two god emperors. Crack, crack, crack. As the huge black cocoon continued to emit cracking sounds, Longao broke out of the cocoon at the fastest speed and continued to head towards the depths of the broken soul cliff. Before Yi Mo and the heavenly phantom wolf could react, they already saw a figure breaking out of the cocoon. The two of them did not expect that Longao would come out at this time. It was too sudden. Chase. Since things had already come to this, how could they choose to give up? Having just comprehended the 2nd level of divine punishment, Longao also wanted to try the first divine punishment that came from breaking through to the 7th revolution of the 9-revolution chaos formula. He wanted to see how powerful the divine punishment was. Divine punishment. The two words came out of Longao's mouth. Then, the man and the beast who were chasing with all their strength suddenly felt a strange aura around them. It was very strange. What was going on? Not daring to be careless, the man and the beast released all their strength and forcibly broke the pressure of the aura that suddenly descended. The power of the 2nd level of divine punishment alone was not enough to bring any trouble to the god emperors. However, Longao did not intend to use the 2nd level of divine punishment to injure the two of them. He just wanted to bring them some trouble. He did not want to continue to use his life essence blood. After all, forcibly using his life essence blood would cause a great loss to him. Unless it was absolutely necessary, it was better not to use it. Just as expected. The divine punishment descended and the two god emperors slowed down a lot. In this way, Longao's speed increased and the distance between them increased again. The man and the beast did not expect the sudden pressure of the aura to come from Longao. After all, Longao was only a peak-over god. It was impossible for him to do this. In the man and the beast's eyes, the sudden pressure of the aura came from the breaking soul cliff itself. Just as the two of them were about to speed up, the pressure of the aura that they had just broken suddenly descended again. It was very depressing. This aura was very strange. Even if it could not cause them any harm, it could slow them down. Something is not right. Why is this aura only suppressing us and not Longao? Not only Yi Mo, but even the heavenly phantom wolf had noticed that something was wrong. Even so, the heavenly phantom wolf still said, "Don't tell me that this is Longao's doing. He doesn't have the ability to do that." Yi Mo was unwilling to admit it. However, his intuition told him that this had something to do with Longao. As for what was wrong, he could not tell. If this continues, it will be almost impossible for us to catch up to Longao. Yi Mo, let's use our life essence blood to speed up at the same time. What do you think? Just as Yi Mo was about to agree, Longao's figure suddenly disappeared. What was going on? Unknowingly, one man and one beast had already entered a black fog. Even if it was them, they were unable to see the situation around them clearly. At most, they could only see the situation within 1 meter. Under this situation, wanting to lock onto Longao's position was like a fool's dream. I can't lock onto his soul. At most, it's within 1 meter. We're in trouble. We should have burned our life essence blood to speed up before. If anything happens to him. Yi Mo did not continue. He sighed deeply. He had never thought that he would run into such a troublesome situation. We have to find him no matter what. I have to get the heaven-devouring beast. The heavenly phantom wolf became slightly frustrated when it thought about the heaven-devouring beast. The two of them began to rise up as quickly as they could. So what if it was within 1 meter? The two of them began to lock onto Longao's position. Chapter 2996. Surrounded by the black fog, one couldn't see more than 1 meter away. Even a divine emperor expert couldn't do anything in such a situation. The heavenly phantom wolf and Yi Mo frantically locked onto Longao's position from left and right. However, it was a little unrealistic to want to lock onto a person's position in this kind of situation. The longer it dragged on, the more unfavorable it would be for them. We can't go on like this. The phantom wolf nodded. How could it not know what Yimo said? So what if it knew? But it couldn't do anything. It was helpless. Do you have a way? Why don't we leave here and wait? There seemed to be no other way. The heavenly phantom wolf was extremely unwilling, but since things had already come to this, it seemed that this was the only way. Let's go. When the man and the beast left, Longao was still walking around in the black fog, as if he was trapped inside. The more he walked, the more frightened he was. If this goes on, I won't be able to get out for the rest of my life. It's not a formation, nor an illusion. What is it? He couldn't figure it out. He really couldn't figure it out. Longao quietly sensed the aura around him, trying to find the exit. In the end, he found nothing. Broken soul cliff. Suddenly, Longao seemed to have thought of something. He didn't continue to sense with his primordial spirit, but with his instincts. As expected, it was simply wishful thinking to rely on his primordial spirit to sense to leave this place. Just like that. Longao relied on his instincts to sense the aura and quickly walked out of the black fog. Even if the man and the beast were beaten to death, they wouldn't have thought that the black fog was surrounded by exits. Longao was very lucky. Among the 4 exits, he chose the opposite side of the man and the beast. If he wanted to wait, the result would be obvious. You're finally here. As soon as he left the black fog, a small straw hut appeared in front of Longao. In front of the straw hut, a lazy old man was sitting on a stone bench, looking sickly and sickly. However, Longao was very afraid of him, because even he couldn't sense his strength. What kind of concept was that? In other words, the lazy old man in front of the thatched hut was far stronger than the heavenly phantom wolf and Yimo. He even gave off an unfathomable feeling, which was almost exactly the same as the feeling Nangong Yin gave him. Who are you? Do you know me? Ha ha ha, you don't even recognize your old friend. But I don't blame you. After all, you haven't awakened your primordial spirit. Sure enough. Longao had already guessed that the old man in front of the thatched hut definitely knew him. As things became more and more complicated, he wanted to awaken his primordial spirit more and more. He wanted to know who his previous life was. Ari. He thought about it for a long time, but he couldn't figure out the reason. It was the best thing that the old man was willing to tell him the reason. I shouldn't tell you this, but I owe you a favor. This time, I'll return the favor. Favor? Just by telling him the reason, he could return the favor. If he really awakened his primordial spirit, he wouldn't be willing. But since things had already come to this, he couldn't say more. Back then, you roamed the chaos world unhindered and dominated the universe. The biggest reason was because you created the heaven-defying cultivation technique, the 9-revolution chaos formula. Apart from you, no one else could cultivate this cultivation technique. Even your wife, Qin Shuang, couldn't. So the 9-revolution chaos technique was created by him. No wonder others couldn't cultivate it. Longao didn't say anything and just listened quietly. Maybe your 9-revolution chaos technique is too powerful. Success depends on the 9-revolution chaos technique, failure depends on the 9-revolution chaos technique. No matter what you think of, you can't break through the 8th revolution of the 9-revolution chaos technique. Similarly, you can't prove the chaos Tao. The result is the same as ours. Gradually, Longao had already guessed a little clue. It seemed that the key was still the 9-revolution chaos formula that he cultivated. Longao, the reason why you can't awaken your primordial spirit is because of the 9-revolution chaos technique that you cultivate. Let me give you a piece of advice. It's best to cultivate it as soon as possible. Otherwise, once someone succeeds in proving the Tao, you'll be in a difficult situation. Then who am I? How difficult was it to continuously improve the 9-revolution chaos technique? Others didn't know, but how could Longao not know? It was already extremely difficult to break through from the 6th revolution to the 7th revolution. But to break through from the 7th revolution to the 8th revolution, the difficulty was hundreds of times higher than before. What kind of concept was that? Each of the 4 great mystiques had 9 levels. If he wanted to break through to the 7th revolution, he would have to break through the fourth mystique, reincarnation. If he wanted to break through to the seventh revolution, he would have to break through to the eighth revolution. According to the old man, the only way for him to awaken his primordial spirit was to reach the peak of his strength in his previous life. If there were no accidents, he should have reached the peak of the seventh revolution, which was the fourth mystique, reincarnation transcendence. I've already said that I've already violated the Tao by telling you this. If I continue to say more, then I won't be able to prove the Tao of chaos in this life. So if you want to know who you are, don't ask anyone. You have to find a way to awaken your primordial spirit. When the time comes, you will naturally know who you are. Lin Fan was depressed. It was the same sentence again. It was easier said than done to comprehend the four great mystiques and cultivate to the peak of the fourth mystique, transcendence. Who knew how long it would take? However, since the old man wasn't willing to say more, there wasn't much meaning in asking more. I want to know your identity. Can I? Broken Soul. Broken Soul. This name was really special. You led me here. What's the matter? Ha ha ha, you're really smart. Longao, you have to know that if I didn't lead you here, do you think you're a match for the man and the beast outside? Although they're ants, they're still unshakable existences for the current you. So what? Before he awakened his primordial spirit, Longao wouldn't trust anyone, including Broken Soul in front of him. Longao's intuition told him that the old man must have other reasons for leading him here. It wasn't just to help him. The human heart was unpredictable. It was better to be careful. Chapter 2997. I can help you lead them away, but you have to promise me one thing. Longao sneered in his heart. It was just a distraction, not a massacre. With the old man's strength, it was almost a matter of minutes for him to kill Yi Mo and the heavenly phantom wolf. It was better to rely on oneself than on others. From the beginning to the end, Longao had never thought of using others to deal with Yi Mo and the beast. Tell me. Longao did not immediately agree. God knew what Duan Hun's condition was. Longao, I need a drop of essence blood of the chaotic heaven-swallowing beast. What do you think? His face suddenly turned cold. He might agree to other things, but this was impossible. Goodbye. As if he had guessed that the other party would refuse, Duan Hun didn't care at all, nor was he angry. Instead, he said with a smile, Longao, if you agree to my condition, I'll owe you a favor. What do you think? Longao, who was about to leave, seemed to think of something. He nodded. Okay. After asking Black to take out a drop of essence blood and throw it over, Longao said, please remember what you said now. Nangong Chen and the marvelous mathematician had more unknown enemies. Longao didn't know how many enemies he would have after awakening his spirit. He would make as many friends as he could. Thank you very much. Longao didn't say anything. He didn't know why Duan Hun wanted Black's essence blood. Well, you can leave now. Longao didn't say anything and turned to leave. The corners of Duan Hun's mouth slowly curled into a sneer as he watched the figure disappear. Just as Duan Hun said. Longao left the valley smoothly and didn't meet the heavenly phantom wolf and Yi Mo. Even if they were beaten to death, they would never expect that the person they were waiting for had already left the valley. Sanskrit Sound Sect. In just a few days, the Sanskrit Sound Sect had been rebuilt, and it was even more magnificent than before. That was strength. At the order of the Sanskrit Sound Sect, countless people swarmed in and began to build. If it were other forces, they wouldn't be able to do it at all. But the result? At this moment. Sanskrit Sound Sect, 9 Heavens Void. Boss, it's impossible for us to fend off over 40 God Kings with our strength. Are we really going to take action? Little Black couldn't figure it out. He didn't know what Boss was thinking. After all, the situation now was completely different from before. It was a completely different concept. How could Longao not know what Blackie meant? Instead, he smiled. Kill as many as we can, but our main target is this magnificent palace. I see. Boss, watch me. The two divided the work. Little Black went to lure out all of the Divine King powerhouses, while Longao was left behind to carry out the grand plan of destruction. He did as he said. Blackie's speed was extremely fast, and it began to roar. In the next second, the 41 divine kings all came out in shock. The Master and the heavenly phantom wolf had already chased after it. Why would this heaven-defying divine beast suddenly appear here? What was going on? While they couldn't figure it out, everyone was very afraid of this divine beast. They didn't dare to be careless. Almost everyone chased after Blackie. The result? As soon as Blackie left, Longao had already begun to attack the magnificent palace in front of him. He didn't use the Shenyuan sword. The Chaos Axe appeared in Longao's right hand. Under the effect of divine punishment, the Chaos Axe in his hand began to hack at the magnificent palace in front of him. With Longao's current strength and the power of the Chaos Axe, it was obvious what the result would be. Boom, boom, boom. A terrifying sound resounded throughout the entire heaven and earth. The magnificent hall that had just been built collapsed with a loud bang under Longao's crazy attack. What did this mean? Even if the Sanskrit sound sect was beaten to death, they would never have thought that Longao would return again. Looking at the collapsed palace, the 41 divine kings didn't have the mood to chase after Blackie. Even a fool had already guessed that this time, the other party was probably playing the so-called luring the tiger away from the mountain. You've gone too far. Longao, you've gone too far. I'm going to tear you into pieces. Everyone roared out crazily as they glared at the figure standing in the void above the 9 heavens. Murderous aura surged out one after another. The murderous aura released by the 41 divine beasts and god kings stacked together and began to suppress Blackie. There was no fear at all. Divine punishment. Just as everyone was about to strike out, a terrifying aura descended. The initial divine kings were imprisoned directly. Even the mid-divine kings found it difficult to do so. Sensing the might of this aura, everyone's face changed as they looked at each other in shock. They had no idea what was going on. Taking advantage of the moment when the aura descended, Longao struck out. The Chaos Axe in his hand began to attack wildly. The Chaos 9 axes, especially the primordial spirit shackle, began to bind the primordial spirits of the god kings. Once someone was forcefully shackled, it was obvious what would happen. Even though Longao's cultivation base was at the peak of the master god realm, the primordial spirit he possessed was comparable to that of a mid-divine king. Especially after comprehending the second divine punishment, he could definitely kill an initial divine king. If the situation permitted, even killing a mid-divine king wouldn't be impossible. Catcher. The Chaos Axe in Longao's hand cleaved down on the body of an initial divine king. The initial divine king's primordial spirit didn't even have the chance to escape before it dissipated into thin air. Xiao He had already returned and was targeting initial divine kings. Xiao He and Longao had already discussed that they had to kill as many divine kings as possible in the shortest amount of time. Xiao He and Longao had joined forces. Especially now that Longao could release the second divine punishment, killing initial divine kings was as easy as chopping vegetables. As for killing mid-divine kings, it wouldn't be that easy. Even so, Longao and Xiao He were still crazily attacking mid-grade god kings. Because both of them were very clear in their heart that mid-grade god kings were far from comparable to primary-grade god kings. Killing one mid-grade god king was equivalent to killing 10 primary-grade god kings. Initial divine kings and mid-divine kings, retreat quickly. All high divine kings and peak divine kings, hold them back. Gradually, someone began to realize that something was amiss. Even so, there were still 4 initial divine kings and 1 mid-divine king that had been killed. If this were to continue, all the initial divine kings and mid-divine kings would be killed. A man and a beast joining forces could actually kill initial divine kings and even mid-divine kings. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have found it hard to believe. In the blink of an eye, all the high divine kings and peak divine kings immediately formed a human wall and began to block the man and the beast. However, they didn't choose to attack the initial divine kings. They didn't know that the man and the beast had another trump card. Chapter 2998. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Longao burst out laughing maniacally as his face was filled with mockery. The Sanskrit sound sect is truly not as good as meeting you in person. Respect, respect. Face slapping. A blatant slap to the face. Be it Longao or Xiao Hei, neither of them were God-King martial artists. They were just peak master gods. And yet, these two peak master gods were the reason why the Sanskrit sound sect was in such a state of chaos. Let's go. Boss, I haven't killed enough yet. Now that Yi Mo is back, there's no point in us staying any longer. Let's go. Xiao Hei was helpless as well. After all, the strength of Yi Mo and the Sky Phantom Wolf was there for all to see. There was no point in them staying any longer. They left just like that. Dozens of minutes later, the figures of Yi Mo and the Sky Phantom Wolf appeared once more. When Yi Mo caught sight of the collapsed main hall, he seemed to have guessed something as he was thoroughly enraged. Just what in the world is going on? Master, after you guys chased after them, Longao suddenly returned with his god beast. Not only did he destroy the main hall that we had just built, he even killed 4 of our Sanskrit sound sect's lower-level god kings and 1 of our middle-level god king. Ah! He reared his head into the skies and roared out with a tremendous killing intent. Once might be an accident, but what about twice? Thrice? Or even 4 times? For the Sanskrit sound sect to be massacred by Longao one after another was a total slap to the face. Not only was it a slap to the Sanskrit sound sect's face, it was a slap to his own as well. The Zonglong celestial region was boundless. If Longao were to hide intentionally, wanting to find any trace of him would be akin to searching for a needle in a haystack. It was practically impossible. If that were the case, how was he supposed to repay this debt? I'll stay behind to help you. Thank you. How could Yi Mo not understand the intentions of the Sky Phantom Wolf? If not for the heaven-devouring beast, why would the Sky Phantom Wolf stay behind to help him? What a joke. Both of them had their own motives. If this man were to hide intentionally, it would be extremely difficult for us to lock onto his location. Wait for the hare to come. Xiao Chen cursed the heavenly Phantom Wolf in his heart. Waiting for him to show up would not work. Who knew if the Longao would appear again? However, under normal circumstances, as long as the other party was not a fool, he would not appear. According to my guess, Longao will definitely come again if nothing unexpected happens. Are you that confident? Yi Mo was very curious. He did not know where the heavenly Phantom Wolf's confidence came from. The heavenly Phantom Wolf smiled strangely, but did not say anything. After this massacre, Longao was pleasantly surprised to find that the second level of divine punishment that he had just comprehended had improved once again. He had successfully comprehended the third level of divine punishment. He did not dare to relax in the slightest. Longao knew very well that he had to comprehend the 9th level of divine punishment in the shortest amount of time possible. As long as he reached the peak of divine punishment, he would be able to comprehend the next divine ability. Big brother, we have to find a place to comprehend the power of space. Otherwise, we won't be able to make a breakthrough in our cultivation. We won't be able to fight against high divine kings or peak divine kings. How could Longao not know the meaning of Blackis words? You're right. Other than the king-titled tower, there are other places in Zonglong City where one can comprehend the power of space. It's just that it's not as good as the king-titled tower. Even if Longao was beaten to death, he would not be willing to go to the king-titled tower. His intuition told him that the king-titled tower was definitely related to Hao Lin. Other than Nangong Yin and the divine mathematician, Hao Lin and Duan Hun had already appeared. They were all people that he knew in his previous life, but he did not know any of them. A person who could control the king-titled tower. It was obvious how powerful Hao Lin's strength was. Zonglong City. Among the various places, Longao chose the Luck Plaza. To put it simply, the Luck Plaza depended on luck. Every time one entered, it was the same as the king-titled tower. It would cost 100 million crystal stones. However, there were no restrictions and anyone could enter. The Luck Plaza was also controlled by the Domain Masters Alliance. The power of comprehension in the Luck Plaza depended on luck. This was because out of 10,000 people who entered the Luck Plaza, there might not be one person who could comprehend it successfully. Unless one failed at other places, Only then would one have no choice but to come. The main reason why Longao chose the Luck Plaza was that it was not that troublesome and was hidden enough. Even if Yi Mo and the others were beaten to death, they would not expect him to come to the Luck Plaza. The Luck Plaza was a huge plaza that could allow hundreds of thousands of people to enter. One could imagine how big the Luck Plaza was. After Longao entered the Luck Plaza, he immediately began to comprehend. As for Xiao Hei, there was no need for him to comprehend at all. This was because according to Xiao Hei, as he continued to refine the inheritance in his body, his strength would continue to increase. There were not many people in the Luck Plaza. At most, there were less than 10,000 people. All of them were scattered around, trying to comprehend the power of space, hoping to comprehend it successfully. Longao's cultivation had already broken through to peak lord. Hence, the next step was not to comprehend but to truly master it. If he could master the power of space, his cultivation would break through to beginner god king from peak lord. Cheng Biao, do you see that person? Do Di, which one is it? The person who just came in. What's going on? I saw him handing over 100 million crystals as if it was a game. He didn't feel the slightest bit of heartache. Think about it yourself and see if he did the right thing. Cheng Biao nodded. That was indeed the case. Under normal circumstances, if someone wanted to enter the Luck Plaza to cultivate, they would have to pay 100 million crystals. 100 million crystals was something that even a god king could not ignore, let alone an ordinary martial artist. Therefore, Du Di immediately noticed that something was amiss. The Luck Plaza was different from the Regal Tower. One could casually make a move in the Luck Plaza but not in the Regal Tower. This was also the real reason why many people were unwilling to enter the Luck Plaza. Let's go. Longao, who was trying his best to master the power of space, suddenly opened his eyes. Looking at the two people who had already arrived before him, he could already guess their intentions. Kid, don't talk nonsense with us. We don't want to talk nonsense with you either. Hand over all the crystals on you and you can stay here to cultivate. Otherwise, scram. The word scram really gave the two of them a fright. They were instantly enraged. The two of them charged at each other. Both of them were peak higher gods. In their opinion, killing a middle god was a piece of cake. Although Longao's cultivation had already broken through to peak god king, he had concealed his aura. To outsiders, he was still a middle god. Chapter 2999. If it were anyone else, the two of them would probably succeed. Except for Longao. Actually, the two of them could not be blamed. This was because, under normal circumstances, lords would not easily step into the Luck Square, let alone a peak lord. It was practically nonsensical. However, the two of them were not very lucky. Before the two of them could react, their primordial spirits were forcefully imprisoned. The two of them were completely stunned. They never thought that the person in front of them was actually a lord, and a peak lord at that. Was this for real? They could not believe it. Sir, please spare our lives. We have a good relationship with the Sanskrit sound sect. Originally, Longao did not plan to kill the two of them. After all, this was the Luck Square. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Longao did not want to kill casually and cause trouble. The main purpose of coming to the Luck Square this time was to master the power of space. Everything else was nonsense. But now, it would have been better if they did not hear about the Sanskrit sound sect. Hearing about the Sanskrit sound sect, Longao's face turned cold. I killed the people from the Sanskrit sound sect. The two of them thought that if they mentioned the Sanskrit sound sect, even if the other party was a peak lord, he would still choose to compromise obediently. The two of them knew better than anyone what the Sanskrit sound sect meant. As the #1 sect in the Zonglongtian region, the Sanskrit sound sect was a giant that no one dared to provoke. In the end, the two of them felt like dying. They did not even have the chance to regret because even if they were beaten to death, they would never have thought that the peak lord in front of them would not even give face to the Sanskrit sound sect. It was too late for regrets now. There was no sound. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, Longao directly brought the two of them into his chaotic dantian and burned them to ashes with the power of strange fire. Longao was overthinking. Even if he killed the two of them openly, it would not cause the slightest commotion. It was still the same thing. In the Luck Square, killing was like eating. It was a very normal thing. After getting rid of the two ants, Longao immediately began cultivating. Mastering space was easy to think about, but it was very difficult to actually do it. Longao had always been very confident in his talent, but he still could not master space and advance to become a God-King powerhouse. Time was running out. To Longao, time could be said to be 10,000 times more important than anything else. As time slowly passed, Longao gradually discovered a problem. When he broke through to the 7th revolution, the 4 great divine abilities he comprehended were definitely related to his own strength. At a certain level, if his strength did not increase, he would definitely not be able to comprehend the corresponding divine abilities. Therefore, increasing one's strength was the most important thing. Everything else was just nonsense. Time trickled by. Right now, the Zonglong Heaven domain was very lively. Everyone was talking about the Sanskrit sound sect. Longao, who came from the Blackstone Heavenly domain, brought a powerful divine beast with him. Since they arrived at the Zonglong Heavenly domain, they began to cause havoc in the Sanskrit sect. From an outsider's point of view, this was simply unimaginable. As the number 1 sect in the Zonglong Tian domain, the Sanskrit sound sect's strength and foundation were obvious. Even the domain chief's manner wouldn't dare to offend them casually, let alone a man and a beast. It was such a powerful existence that the man and the beast did not fear it at all. The first time, he destroyed the Sanskrit sound sect and killed countless of their disciples. If it were anyone else, they would have chosen to leave long ago. Only the man and the beast did not leave. Instead, they destroyed the Sanskrit sound sect a second time. They even killed 4 early-stage divine kings and 1 mid-stage divine king. What kind of concept was that? It was too crazy. 2 words appeared in everyone's mind at the same time. Madman. If he wasn't a madman, how could he do such a crazy thing? It was simply unbelievable. The Sanskrit sound sect was now in a state of peace. They recruited new disciples and rebuilt the palace. It looked like a thriving scene, but everyone already knew that the Sanskrit sound sect was no longer the same as before. If it was before, it would be easier said than done to enter the Sanskrit sound sect. But now, even if the Sanskrit sound sect lowered the threshold again and again, many people were still unwilling to join the Sanskrit sound sect. The biggest reason was that there was no sense of security in the Sanskrit sound sect. Security. Security was simply a big joke for the Sanskrit sound sect. However, the Sanskrit sound sect was powerless. They had been destroyed twice by Longao. Not to mention the people outside, even the people in the Sanskrit sound sect began to suspect. Becoming a disciple of the Sanskrit sound sect meant that they could die at any time. The Sanskrit sound sect, in a grand hall that had just been built. Yimo, the heavenly phantom wolf, and the remaining 30-odd divine kings were all gathered. They were discussing how to deal with Longao. As for the matter of the heaven-swallowing beast, neither Yimo nor the heavenly phantom wolf told anyone. After all, they knew very well what it meant. Even Yimo and the heavenly phantom wolf had their own ulterior motives. Everyone, is there any news of Longao? Yimo was worried that Longao would hide, but he still helplessly found that after searching for 10 days, he still couldn't find any trace of Longao. If this continued, it wouldn't be a solution. However, the Zonglong Heaven domain was boundless. Even the Sanskrit sound sect couldn't find a person casually. Master, we've already contacted all the city lords and master of the Zonglong Heaven domain, but we still haven't found any traces of Longao. The 3 teleportation formations are all under our control. If Longao wants to leave the Zonglong Heaven domain, he'll have to cross the Heaven domain. However, that's impossible, so Longao is still in the Zonglong Heaven domain. Everyone was certain about this because no one could cross the Heaven domain unless they had a flying battleship or a divine king. Even a divine king might not be able to do that. After all, crossing the Heaven domain was too dangerous. Even a flying battleship or a divine king could die if they were unlucky. Yimo nodded his head in agreement and said, "That's not what I want. You guys need to increase your efforts." You must find the traces of Longao. Liu Fen felt helpless. If it was that easy to find Longao, he wouldn't have to be so worried. However, he knew how the master felt. If he said that he would try his best, the master would get angry. Yi Mo saw that Liu Fen didn't say anything, so he knew how difficult it was for him. If it was something else, it wouldn't matter. However, he couldn't be careless about this matter. Pass down my order. As long as you can find Longao's traces, you can become a consecrated elder of the Sanskrit Sound School. You can enjoy all the treatment of an elder. Moreover, I will owe you a favor. If you can kill Longao, you can raise any conditions. Chapter 3000. After the Sanskrit Sound sect announced the reward, it caused a sensation in the entire Zonglong region. It seemed that the Sanskrit Sound sect was really angry this time. But after thinking about it, he felt relieved. Longao dared to destroy the Sanskrit Sound sect twice and killed countless disciples and 5 divine king elders. No matter who it was, they would do the same. Not only that, but they would even go even further. As the saying goes, when there is a great reward, there will be brave men. Countless people began to look for Longao's traces, but the Zonglong region was too big. If Longao really hid deliberately, it would not be easy to find his real location. Zonglong City, Qi Canton. He had been sensing it for dozens of days, but he still could not successfully master the power of space. Longao could clearly sense that he was only one step away from the Divine King realm. It was just one step, but it was as difficult as climbing the sky. He could not break through. If this continued, who knew what would happen? It would be a lie to say that he was not depressed. As for the reason, even Longao did not know. He could not figure it out. Boss, what's wrong? Although Blackie was in the chaotic Dantian, he was able to communicate with Longao using his spiritual sense. In the Fortune Square, only powerful martial artists would find trouble with weak martial artists. After all, every time one entered the Fortune Square, they would have to spend 100 million crystal stones. 100 million crystal stones could only be used once, but all warriors who entered were there to cultivate, not to find trouble. Like the 2 people that Longao had killed before, they were in the minority. I don't know what's going on. I feel that my cultivation is about to break through, but I still can't master the power of space. I don't know why. Xiao Hei was also very surprised. He could not figure out what was going on with his boss. How are you? Boss, the power I devoured before is enough for me to refine the inheritance and break through to the Divine King realm. I can do it in about a month. A month passed in the blink of an eye for them. He was overjoyed. Longao was pleasantly surprised to the extreme. According to Blackie's current strength, he could already devour early God Kings. If Blackie's cultivation broke through to the God King realm, he could even devour mid or high God Kings. Alright, you can stay in the Dantian and refine the inheritance. Try to break through to the God King realm as soon as possible. Boss, what about you? He sighed deeply. Longao stood up and stretched. He said helplessly, my intuition tells me that even if I stay in the Luck Plaza, I won't be able to break through to the God King realm. I need to go out and train. I need to see if I can control space and break through to the God King realm. He left the Luck Plaza. Longao didn't go anywhere and continued to stay in Zonglong City. The most dangerous place was also the safest place. As soon as he left the Luck Square, Longao heard discussions coming from everywhere. They were all about him and the Sanskrit sect. He sneered. He didn't care about the Sanskrit Sound sect at all. If the Sanskrit Sound sect was strong, he wouldn't be here right now. He would be in the Sanskrit Sound sect or Yunlu. He walked around casually. When he was tired, he would find an inn to rest. When he was done, he would continue to shop and not cultivate. At this moment, Longao was like the most ordinary person, living the most ordinary life. Longao's intention was simple. He didn't know why he couldn't break through the bottleneck and control the chaotic energy. If that was the case, he didn't know when he could break through to the God King realm. He was going to do the opposite. Longao was going to live an ordinary life and see if there was an opportunity for him to break through. Maple Leaf City was an ordinary city. 99% of the people in the city were ordinary people. The most important thing was that there were martial artists in the city lord's residence. There was a tofu pudding shop. It looked simple, but there were many people. The owner of the shop was a family of 3. They were all ordinary people. Dad, 3 bowls of tofu pudding. Xiao Kui, go and see if young Master Ordinary still needs it. Oh. Xiao Kui looked very ordinary. She came to Longao and asked with a smile, Brother Ordinary, do you still need tofu pudding? No, I'll sit here for a while. Brother Ordinary, go ahead. This was prepared especially for you. Xiao Kui smiled and left immediately. The business was booming. This was a commoner district and there were ordinary people everywhere. Ordinary martial artists wouldn't come here. Therefore, the people here didn't have to worry about any danger. Looking at the ordinary life of the family of 3 not far away, Longao smiled sincerely. Ever since he got the chaotic seal, he had been living in a life and death situation. Enemies appeared one after another, leaving him no time to rest. This time, he returned to being ordinary and he enjoyed it. Even his name was ordinary. It wasn't just the family of 3. Everyone around him was the most ordinary person living an ordinary life. Gradually, Longao's eyes were gently closed. A strange power was constantly surging from all around. It was the power of space. It surrounded Longao's body and gradually formed a huge transparent air shield. Look, what's this person doing? He's a martial artist. Wow, I've seen a legendary martial artist. Seeing that someone was covered by the transparent shield, everyone started to exclaim. They looked at the young man in front of them in shock. They didn't know what was going on with this person. Even if he was a martial artist, this seemed a little strange. The most shocked people were Xiao Kui's family of 3. They didn't expect that the young Master Ordinary who came every day recently was a legendary martial artist. Longao's sudden enlightenment caused an uproar. For a martial artist, enlightenment was something that could only be encountered and not sought. Not to mention in the eyes of ordinary people, even in the world of martial artists, it would cause quite a stir. After all, enlightenment wasn't something that could be done casually. After going through this ordinary life, Longao's benefits were incomparably huge. He had not broken through to the Divine King realm, but the 9 revolution chaotic technique had broken through to the 7th revolution. His first divine ability, Divine Punishment, had been rapidly comprehended from the 3rd level Divine Punishment to the 4th level Divine Punishment, the 5th level Divine Punishment, the 6th level Divine Punishment, and it gradually stopped after the 7th level Divine Punishment. Even so, Longao was pleasantly surprised. He had never thought that he would be able to comprehend from the 3rd level Divine Punishment to the 7th level Divine Punishment. The 3rd stage Divine Punishment and the 7th stage Divine Punishment were 2 completely different concepts. The difference between the 2 was too great. Longao was confident that even if he didn't break through to the Divine King realm, he could still rely on the power of the Divine Punishment to imprison a mid-Divine King. This was the terror of the first divine ability, Divine Punishment. Chapter 3001. Dozens of minutes later, Longao suddenly opened his eyes. The spatial cocoon around him disappeared without a trace. He did not break through. Longao sensed the power in his body. He was still at peak Lord level. Even with the epiphany, he could not break through. It was a little hard to accept. What was going on? He could not figure it out. However, being able to comprehend the 7th level of Divine Punishment was already a blessing in disguise. Brother Pingfan, are you a martial artist? Longao smiled. Originally, he wanted to leave some cultivation methods and martial arts techniques for the family of 3, as well as cultivation resources. However, after some thought, he decided not to do so. Sometimes, there was nothing wrong with an ordinary life. He envied Xiao Kui's family of 3 for living an ordinary life. However, he could not do that at all. Yes. Longao did not say much. His strength had been exposed. There was no point in staying. He left behind hundreds of millions of crystals and left quickly. He had to admit. The Sanskrit sound sect was indeed very powerful. Especially after receiving the order, everyone was locking onto Longao's location. The news of Longao's sudden epiphany had spread to the Sanskrit sound sect. An hour later, Yi Mo and the heavenly phantom wolf suddenly arrived in Maple Leaf City with several godly kings. They stood in the sky and looked down at the most ordinary city below. In their eyes, such a city was like an ant. If it were any other time, they would not even look at it. What is that? A martial artist. A martial artist who can fly. Everyone exclaimed in surprise. Have you seen Longao? Xiao Kui's family of 3 was forcefully suppressed by the majestic aura. They knelt down directly. Apart from being shocked, the 3 of them could not understand who Longao was. The old man said with trepidation, "Sir, we don't know who Longao is." Humph. Crack. A few of the old man's ribs were crushed. There was a scream. "Father, what are you doing? We really don't know who Longao is." As if he didn't want to waste any more time, Yi Mo could clearly sense that Longao wasn't here. Because of this, the anger in his heart turned into billowing murderous aura that directly descended upon the entire Maple Leaf City. Boom. 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 A mid-level divine emperor's aura was terrifying. They didn't even need to attack Maple Leaf City. They only needed to release their aura to destroy the entire city. Even the City Lord Mansion of Maple Leaf City didn't have time to react. The entire Maple Leaf City was destroyed in an instant. There were hundreds of thousands of people in the city, but none of them managed to escape. All of them died under the chi of a Shenhuang. Let's go. Yi Mo, Sky Phantom Wolf, and the others did not continue to stay. As far as they were concerned, Longao was just passing by to comprehend something. Since he had already left, they believed that he would definitely not return. After leaving, Longao always felt uneasy in his heart, as if something had happened. What was going on? Boss, what's wrong? Blackie was very curious. Under normal circumstances, since Boss had already comprehended the 7th level of the divine punishment, it should be a happy thing. However, Boss seemed to have a lot on his mind. Blackie, I don't know why, but I have a bad feeling about this. Highs. Blackie was helpless as well. He didn't know what to say. I'm going back to check it out. Longao turned around immediately. When he returned to Maple Leaf City, he sensed a massive amount of death chi. His face changed immediately. In the next second, he appeared in Maple Leaf City. Looking at the countless corpses around him, he knew what had happened. Silence. All of a sudden, Longao raised his head and roared madly. An endless amount of murderous aura surged out, piercing through the 9 heavens. Sanskrit sect, I, Longao, will definitely destroy you completely. Yi Mo, if I don't kill you, I, Longao, swear that I'm not human. Longao finally knew why he had been feeling uneasy. It turned out that everyone in Maple Leaf City had been killed. Under the pressure of the powerful divine soul, how could ordinary people resist? He blamed himself and his internal strength because if it weren't for him, how could all the people in Maple Leaf City be killed? He thought that these were the most ordinary people who lived the most ordinary lives. It was all because of him that they met with such a disaster. How could he not be angry? Thinking of the family of 3 and the innocent and kind girl, Longao felt a deep sense of anger. The guilt in his heart grew stronger and stronger. He sat down on the ground and sat there quietly. Blackie appeared beside Longao. Looking at the corpses around, he sighed deeply. In this situation, he didn't know how to persuade Boss. Time flew. For 3 days and 3 nights, Longao had been sitting there without moving. He just looked at the stall in front of him. This incident seemed to have a huge impact on Longao. His state of mind had changed again. 3 days later, Longao stood up suddenly. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Boss, where are we going now? Sanskrit sect. If it was any other time, Little Black would have immediately gone to the Sanskrit sound sect to fight. However, the situation now was obviously different. His boss had been blinded by killing. If he rashly went to the Sanskrit sound sect, he might go for wool and come home shorn, putting himself in a predicament. Boss, you have to calm down. Even if we want to take revenge, we have to think about it carefully. How could Longao not know what Blackie meant? Even if I die in the Sanskrit sect today, I will take revenge. If he didn't go to the Sanskrit sect to take revenge, he wouldn't be able to swallow this anger. He couldn't suppress the anger in his heart. Since things had come to this, Blackie didn't want to say anything more. He would do whatever boss said. Even if it was a mountain of knives and a sea of fire, he had to go. The man and the beast left quickly, but before they left, they buried everyone in Maple Leaf City. Sanskrit sect. 9 heavens. Boom. 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 The moment Blackie and Longao appeared, they started attacking the palace madly. Under the combined efforts of these two peak master gods, the newly built palace collapsed once more. They were really caught off guard. Even if they were beaten to death, no one in the Sanskrit sect would have thought that Longao would dare to return. By the time they realized what was going on, the gigantic palace had already collapsed. Looking at the sudden appearance of this man and beast, Yimo and the Sky Phantom Wolf were not angry in the least bit. Instead, they were elated. Longao, there's a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it. Instead, you barge into hell. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Yimo, you shameless be***starred. To think that you would destroy a mere mortal city. Mortal city? They're just a bunch of ants. Even if they're destroyed, what can you do? Chapter 3002. Ants. Indeed, Yimo had not said anything wrong. Not to mention mortals, even lords were like ants in his eyes. In Yimo's opinion, it was perfectly normal for him to destroy a small mortal city. That was the reason. Yimo was shocked. He never thought that Longao would come to him for a group of mortals and put him in a hopeless situation. Was he a fool? Or was he impulsive? No matter what Yimo was thinking, as long as he came, it was a good thing for him. Ha ha ha, ants. Yimo, you're also an ant in my eyes. Today, I'm going to destroy the Sanskrit sound sect. You. Yimo sneered. Even the god kings behind Yimo were full of mockery and disdain, let alone Yimo. A mere peek-over god wanted to destroy the Sanskrit sound sect. Was that possible? That was a joke. Many people began to laugh maniacally. Their laughter was filled with mockery as if they had heard the funniest thing in the world. In the next second, Longao did not continue to talk nonsense. His primordial spirit began to burn immediately. Boss, what are you doing? Stop it. Stop it. Xiao Hei was scared out of his wits. He never thought that Yimo would burn his primordial spirit to increase his strength. Even if his primordial spirit was indestructible, he knew better than anyone what burning it meant. Boss. Longao had cut off the connection with Xiao Hei and began to burn his primordial spirit. Yimo and the others also noticed Longao's crazy actions, but they were not worried at all. If it were a god king who burned his primordial spirit to increase his strength, they might be wary. What could a mere peek-over god do even if he burned his primordial spirit? It was a joke. It was complete nonsense. Yimo and the others did not attack. They just smiled and waited. Their intention was clear. They wanted to see how much the burning of his primordial spirit would increase his strength. Even Longao did not know how much the burning of his primordial spirit would increase his strength. But in the end, he could not suppress the anger and murderous intent in his body. He had to increase his strength, and the fastest way to do so was to burn his primordial spirit. As for the consequences of burning his primordial spirit, he could not care less. Kill. All he had to do was kill Yimo and destroy the Sanskrit sect. Longao had yet to master the power of space. Thus, even if he burned his Yuan divinity and rapidly increased his cultivation base, he still couldn't master the power of space, not to mention the Godemperor's power of space imprisonment, forward, backward, and forbidding. Ah! Longao looked up to the sky and roared crazily. Longao burned his primordial spirit. In just a few seconds, his cultivation had already begun to soar crazily. Elementary God King, Middle God King, High God King, Peak God King. Yimo and the others were taken aback by the sudden increase of 4 levels. Burning one's primordial spirit could raise one's cultivation by so much. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would have found it hard to believe. Attack. Yimo didn't know why, but he started to worry. If Longao continued to advance, Then he would become a divine emperor. Nobody could predict what would happen at that time. End the battle quickly. As soon as Yimo finished speaking, the heavenly phantom wolf shot off first. Afterwards, the several dozen god kings shot off as well. But what was the result? Longao didn't stop at all. Instead, he continued to burn his Yuan divinity. He had just reached the peak god king level, but his cultivation base soared again. He reached the elementary god king level and only stopped when he reached the intermediate god king level. Feeling the terrifying aura released by Longao, everyone was completely stunned. Was it true that he had broken through 6 levels by burning his Yuan divinity? However, Yimo and the heavenly phantom wolf soon discovered that although Longao's cultivation was forcibly promoted to the middle-level divine emperor due to the burning of his primordial spirit, he did not master the power of space, let alone the various divine abilities of space. They finally heaved a sigh of relief. If it had been before, even if Longao had broken through to the intermediate god king level, he wouldn't have been able to resist the two. After all, Longao didn't break through normally, but by burning his Yuan divinity. Everyone knew how big the gap was. But now, the situation was completely different. Longao had successfully broken through to the 7th revolution of the 9-revolution chaos formula and comprehended the first divine skill, divine punishment. Longao had successfully comprehended the 7th revolution of divine punishment. Although he had burned his Yuan divinity to reach the intermediate god king level and had not mastered the power of space, his divine punishment divine skill had soared again. Not only had it soared to the 9th revolution of divine punishment, it had even reached the so-called peak. This is the peak of divine punishment. Longao had a feeling of enlightenment. If he hadn't died from the burning of his Yuan divinity, his comprehension of the divine punishment divine skill would not have been able to progress further. It was a good thing for him. But what was the result? Longao knew what would happen if he burned his Yuan divinity. Fortunately, his Yuan divinity wasn't destroyed, so he didn't have to worry about life and death. If it had been someone else who burned their Yuan divinity, the result would have been death. There was no doubt about it. Longao was an exception. He had to end the battle quickly because burning his Yuan divinity would increase his strength. He could only last for 10 minutes at most. Once the time was up, even he didn't know what would happen. So he had to hurry up. Divine punishment, instant. After comprehending the 9th revolution of divine punishment, it was the peak of instant. As for the power of the peak of instant, Longao still didn't know. But his intuition told him that the peak of instant was definitely not simple. Catcher. The 3 god kings were directly locked on by the instant. In the next second, Longao's figure appeared in front of them with a strange smile. The 3 of them looked at Longao who had suddenly appeared in front of them. The 3 divine kings were completely dumbfounded. They retreated continuously and ran as far as they could. The 3 of them had never thought that the other party's strength and speed would have skyrocketed to such an extent after burning his primordial spirit. It was simply inconceivable. The 3 god kings wanted to run, but they were clearly powerless under such circumstances. They could only watch as Longao attacked. Under the effect of divine punishment, the speed of the 3 god kings was countless times slower. Longao's chaos axe had already slashed towards the 3 god kings. Catcher, catcher, catcher. The 3 god kings were killed instantly. They didn't even have the chance to react. Their bodies slowly fell to the ground. Even their Yuan divinities couldn't escape in time. Their Yuan divinities were destroyed. Chapter 3003. Killing 3 god king elders in one move. Not to mention others, even Yimo and the heavenly phantom wolf were a little shocked. They never thought that Longao would be so powerful after burning his primordial spirit. The heavenly phantom wolf was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it had already attacked Longao fiercely. This time, Longao did not dodge at all. Instead, he chose to face it head-on. Boom! There was a loud sound. The heavenly phantom wolf was sent flying while Longao did not move at all. It was as if nothing had happened. Yimo, who was about to rush over, was completely shocked when he saw the heavenly phantom wolf being sent flying. He stood there in a daze. Even if Longao burned his primordial spirit, he should not be so powerful. How did he do it? While Yi Mo was in a daze, Longao made his move. Anyway, things had already come to this. Longao's speed soared to the extreme. He held the primal chaos axe in his hand. After his speed soared to the extreme, the primal chaos axe in his hand always brought up clouds of blood mist. There were only 30 god kings left in the Sanskrit sound sect. But now, in just a few minutes, Longao had already killed 30 god kings. There were only 4 god kings left. However, Longao did not hesitate at all. He immediately rushed towards the 4 god kings. Yi Mo and the heavenly phantom wolf had only been stunned for a moment, but so many god king martial artists had already died. If this was the case, the remaining 4 would probably have died as well. They must not let the 4 of them die. Thinking of this, the heavenly phantom wolf and Yi Mo once again rushed towards Longao. They knew very well that even if Longao's strength had skyrocketed, his primordial spirit had already been burned. How long could he last? The divine punishment was instantaneous. Longao resisted 1 man and 1 beast and immediately began to kill the remaining 4. At this point, all the god kings of the Sanskrit sound sect had been killed. Longao knew very well that burning his primordial spirit would not last long. He had to take advantage of the remaining time to kill 1 man and 1 beast. Cut the weeds and eliminate the roots to prevent future troubles. When Longao used his peak instant breath, he immediately recovered his primal chaos axe. At this moment, Longao ignored Yi Mo and continued to attack the heavenly phantom wolf with all his might. Even the heavenly phantom wolf was starting to falter under Yi Mo's relentless attacks. Crack! The primal chaos axe directly killed the heavenly phantom wolf. As for its primordial spirit, it was thrown into Longao's primordial spirit. Xiao He hadn't broken through to the divine king realm yet, so he still needed a huge amount of support. 30 divine kings and 1 divine emperor were enough for Xiao He to break through to the divine king realm, and even reach the mid-divine king realm. Yi Mo was about to continue attacking. Seeing the heavenly phantom wolf being slaughtered in such a frenzied manner, he jumped in fright. How could he dare to continue attacking? He immediately turned and fled. In any case, Longao had already ignited his primordial spirit and was bound to die. There was no need for him to clash head-on with his opponent. It was a pity that the spatial body and the heaven-devouring beast were wasted. Longao, who was about to chase after Yi Mo, suddenly felt a wave of weakness coming from his body. Especially his primordial spirit. It was no longer possible for him to continue using his terrifying strength. He didn't dare to hesitate. Taking advantage of the fact that his primordial spirit was about to dissipate, Longao entered his primordial spirit. In his primordial spirit, Longao's primordial spirit was very weak, like a light spot. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't be extinguished, Longao would have died by now. "Boss, how are you?" Seeing that his boss had fainted, Xiao He was worried. After Yi Mo left, he waited for an entire hour before returning. Looking at Longao, who was already nowhere to be found, he was very clear in his heart that if nothing unexpected happened, Longao must have already fallen. But where was his corpse? "I'm late." He was simply regretting to the extreme because Yi Mo had already guessed that if there was no accident, Longao's corpse would definitely be taken away by the heaven-swallowing beast. If only he could come 1 step earlier. However, it was too late to say anything now. There was no medicine for regret in this world. Yi Mo's heart ached at the thought of all the god kings dying. He had worked so hard to build his empire, but it was ruined just like that. However, Yi Mo soon figured it out. Although they had suffered a great loss, it was fortunate that Longao had died because he burned his primordial spirit. The most important thing now was to locate the heaven-devouring beast as soon as possible. As long as he could find the heaven-devouring beast, he would naturally be able to find Longao's corpse. The news of the Sanskrit sound sect spread very quickly. Longao burned his primordial spirit and destroyed the Sanskrit sound sect. Not only did he kill all the god kings and elders, but he even killed the level 6 divine beast, heavenly phantom wolf. What did that mean? It shook the entire Long Tien territory. They had seen powerful people, but they had never seen such a powerful person. The relationship between the two sides had reached a point where it was either you die or I die. However, even so, Longao was a little too impulsive. He didn't hesitate to burn his primordial spirit to forcefully increase his strength. If it were anyone else, they definitely wouldn't do such a thing. Even so, a peak lord could kill a level 6 divine beast by burning his primordial spirit. That was T. Many people didn't believe it. Zonglong City, city leader's mansion. When Xiao Fan heard the news, he stood up immediately. His face was filled with shock and disbelief because even he had never thought that Longao's strength would be so powerful after burning his primordial spirit. Not only did he kill many god kings, but he even killed the heavenly phantom wolf. What did that mean? Xiao Fan sighed deeply. Xiao Fan also knew that although Longao had burned his primordial spirit to forcefully destroy the Sanskrit sound sect, Longao would definitely die after burning his primordial spirit. However, he was already very powerful to be able to do that. But it was a pity that Longao had only killed the heavenly phantom wolf and did not manage to kill Yimo. If he could make use of this opportunity to kill Yimo, that would be the best thing in the world. Xiao Fan could not wait for Yimo to fall. After all, for so many years, Yimo had been suppressing him with all his might. This was especially the case for the position of the city leader. That was something that had been bothering him for the rest of his life. After all, everyone was saying that it was because Yimo wanted him to give up the position of the city leader. Otherwise, he wouldn't even have had the chance to become the city leader of Zonglong City. Even so, from this day forth, Yimo's reputation will be completely ruined. If nothing goes wrong, Yimo shouldn't be able to stay here any longer. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Xiao Fan laughed out maniacally, feeling extremely emotional in his heart. Just at this moment, Brother Xiao, I'd like to ask for your help. I wonder if you're willing to help. Xiao Fan's heart sank. Looking at Yimo who had suddenly descended, Xiao Fan was infuriated. No matter what, this was the city leader's mansion. To think that this guy would barge in without even calling out to him. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.